An entitled real estate agent tries to pull a fast one on me and my wife by nearly screwing us out of our dream property. So we decided to get some petty revenge by going with another agent to sell our house, who then earned over $20,000 in commissions from our sale. Here's how we did it. A while back, my wife and I decided to downsize, and so we were out there dealing with those bastions of honesty real estate agents on a weekly basis. We attended an open house for an apartment we fell in love with, and after another arranged viewing, we made an offer with the agent who we will call Paul. Now, Paul was your stereotypical agent, sharply dressed, talkative, and smarmy with an attractive assistant to hand out the brochures. But he had the listing for what we wanted, so there was no avoiding him. Our initial underlisting price offer was refused with a counteroffer, which we thought was over the odds, but we wanted it badly. And as we were downsizing, the extra $20,000 or so was not a strain. So we agreed on the price on the strict proviso that the impending open house for the weekend did not proceed, as we didn't want to run the risk of someone throwing in a higher offer. Contracts were to be exchanged on the Monday, and this was agreed upon by Paul. Well, I drove past at the time of the open house just to check out the neighborhood again, and then I saw the signs were still out. This guy lied to us. So, being petty, we went up to the apartment, said hello to Paul and his assistant, who were a little surprised to see us, and then proceeded to follow around any visitors and point out the deficiencies as we saw them. We also monopolized Paul and his assistant anytime people were angling to chat to them. They couldn't tell us to get lost. We were the buyers. We were the first in and the last out. 10 groups left knowing every fault in the apartment, as well as the area and with the complex. Now, I was pissed, but I kept it amicable because this was exactly what we wanted, and I didn't want to jeopardize the purchase. So, through gritted teeth, we worked with Paul and exchanged contracts on the Monday as planned. But the best part was still to come. As downsizers, we had a house to sell, almost double in price to the unit we had just purchased. The property we bought was tenanted, so we had 6 months until we could get vacant possession, which suited us, as we could get out of our old home ready for sale. And of course, Paul was keen to get our listing and was onto it straight away. Now, I didn't discourage him, and I actually got him around to look at our old home to recommend improvements that we should do before listing the property for sale. He was only too happy and came up with a detailed plan for us and came and presented to us in a professionally done package. He then followed up every month asking for updates. Well, it took us 5 months of work to get it ready to list, and when we phoned Paul to come out and have a look at the property ready for sale, he turned up and was blown away by the improvements, and you could almost see him salivating to have this listing. He agreed with comparable sales and a price in mind, and did pressure me to sign listing documents then and there, but I made the excuse that my wife was away for the next couple of days, and there was no way I could agree to a listing and sign documents without her. We then made an appointment for later in the week, and that was quite literally the last time we ever saw Paul in person. Our listing with another agent went live on the property websites 2 days later, and the first person I forwarded the advertisement to was Paul. I simply said that this was a direct result of lying to us about canceling the open house, and that we couldn't reward someone who did that to us. We got an offer that we couldn't refuse on the very first open house. The agent pocketed about $20,000 in commission, which is probably loose change to agents, but at least I knew it wasn't going to Paul, especially after the way he tried to pull a fast one on me. Oh my gosh, this guy literally brought it on himself. All he had to do was be honest, and he would have pocketed like, what, $20,000 in commissions? And no, that's not loose change. Like, that would be really awesome money. I don't care who you are. So good for you for getting back at this guy, because he sounds like a complete scumbag and he does not deserve your money. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My lazy boss demands I do as he says, or I can quit if I don't like it. So I decided to pull a fast one by taking the second option and quitting right there on the spot, leaving him absolutely dumbfounded that I actually called his bluff right then and there. Here's how it went down. Okay, so back in circa 2000, I was a freshman in college. I didn't have a wealthy family, but I got good scholarships from grades, but still had to work 20 hours a week to make ends meet. So I ended up working in the school cafeteria as a dishwasher. This position paid extra compared to other student positions, and I got a free meal every shift. There were a couple of full-time staff supplemented by us students, and they of course got the clean side of the conveyor belt washer. And don't get me wrong, these guys were all great, very nice to us students. The other 3 spots were typically meant for students. The first quarter goes good, we are a bit short-handed, but the group I usually worked with got along really well, and we all learned which spots we were fastest at. So when it was busy, we'd all go where we were the fastest to keep from getting overwhelmed. And when we were slower, we would rotate to break up the monotony. The second quarter rolls around and someone in management decided that we needed a dish room supervisor, and this is where the new hire Kevin comes in. Kevin is a lazy jerk. He would spend 1 to to 2 hours eating and would only come in to yell at us before disappearing. And trust me, we all hated this guy. But one night it finally happened. Kevin decided he was going to order which spot we worked at. And of course he did this on a shift that we were shorter than usual and somehow managed to put all 3 of us in our slowest spots. Now I, of course, tried to explain why we'd all been in different spots, as well as why we should stay there. But Kevin was having none of it. He told me to shut up and do as he said or I could quit. So you know what? That's exactly what I did. I said I was done and I just walked out. And his expression was priceless. Even better, when I changed and came back for dinner, he was having to work himself in the first conveyor spot close by the tray drop-off, so I made sure to smile at him on my way out. I then apologized to my friends for dipping out on them, but they understood. And you know what? They didn't last much longer either, even though Kevin started treating them nicer afterwards, since he realized telling people to quit was not going to be a good way to make them work harder. Dude, I love this so much because you had like this light bulb moment where you're like, wait a second, you're right, I can quit if I don't like this. This sucks, I'm out of here. And then you literally did just that. Admittedly, I've never had a boss be like, oh, if you don't like it, you can quit. Like if my job ever gets to that point, then oh my god, something really went bad. But like seriously, anytime a manager is giving you an ultimatum like that of, oh, you can either do as you're told or you can quit, chances are it's probably better to quit because that job probably sucks because of this kind of person. And in my opinion, it's not worth waiting it out and instead just find a new job and move on with your life. My entitled neighbor complains all the time about all the noise I make in the morning, despite the fact that I'm legally able to make this kind of noise at the hours I'm doing it. So I decided to get some petty revenge by literally singing opera as loud as I could every single morning. And the best part about it is that this guy can't do anything about it. Here's what's going on. I'm a 28-year-old female and I have lived in my apartment for nearly 2 years now. Every morning I grind fresh coffee beans at around 7:30 in the morning before work, and it takes maybe 30 seconds tops. I've never had a single complaint until the new guy moved in next door 4 months ago. This dude, probably in his mid-40s, works nights apparently, but instead of talking to me like a normal person, he started leaving passive-aggressive notes under my door. First it would be like, some people are trying to sleep. Then he would say, the coffee grinder is excessive. Finally, last month, he escalated to filing a formal noise complaint with the landlord. The landlord laughed it off since 7:30 in the morning is well within reasonable hours, but Prince Charming next door didn't stop there. He started banging on the walls whenever I used any kitchen appliance. If it was the microwave or the blender, it didn't matter. I would hear banging all the same. So I decided if he wants to play the noise game, then I'll happily play. It turns out I took opera lessons in college and I still remember most of the vocals. So now I practice scales in opera every morning at 6 o'clock sharp, since the completely legal quiet hours end at 6 o'clock in our building. Now the best part about it is that when he came pounding on my door last week, screaming about the singing, I innocently told him that I'm pursuing my passion and that music is meant to be shared. He tried filing another complaint, but the landlord told him that practicing music during daytime hours is perfectly acceptable. And at this point, I've been doing this for about 3 weeks now. And sure, it is petty, but you know what? At least now my vocal range is improving and my neighbor can finally get off my back. Okay, I love this so much because yeah, that's a completely normal hour to be like making noise. If the guy really is that sensitive to sleep and he works nights or whatever, then dude, put in earplugs. Like seriously, your weird work schedule is not my responsibility. So I love this petty revenge and I honestly think it's pretty hilarious. Am I the jerk for refusing to allow my siblings to use me for my money? Because honestly, after dealing with this for so long, I feel like I'm at a breaking point and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. For a bit of context, I'm the older sister with 3 adult siblings who don't work. There's various reasons behind it, whether it's school or unemployed or mental health issues. We were celebrating my mother's birthday and my sister picked a mildly expensive place. And while we were there, we had a good time and we had decent food. But when the bill came, they all looked to me. I was so taken aback and confused because I never agreed to cover the bill. Plus, my dad was there, so I assumed he would cover the bill for the restaurant. I mean, don't dads normally cover the bills for family dinners? My sister then made a snarky comment that if she had a job, she would have covered the bill out of the generosity of her heart because she's holier than thou and all that other crap. And my siblings backed her up on it. We then got into a huge argument that day, and my siblings tag teamed against me and said that I was the bad guy for not picking up the tab, and I was cheap and stingy, and I don't have a generous heart. Well, I was shocked and I cried that day. Mind you, there has been countless times I paid for things. Nice birthday gifts, outings, vacations, shows. I did them because I wanted to. But now I feel like I've sabotaged myself. My kind gestures have turned into expectation, and I can't keep doing this. I feel like because they don't work and don't pay any bills, they don't know the reality of finances. Money doesn't grow on trees, and it doesn't come for free. I worked so hard in my life. I didn't do all that so that my unemployed adult siblings could splurge. But now vacations are coming up and my sibling's birthday is coming up as well. They want to do something expensive because such and such did something expensive recently. I want them to enjoy vacation and have a good birthday, but I'm gonna hold my ground this time and request to split everything. I don't care. If they can't afford their portion, then don't do nice things and don't buy nice things. Better yet, just get a job. I can already sense an argument coming over this, calling me stingy, calling me cold-hearted, calling me a bad person, that if they had money, they would have happily splurged on the family. I honestly just can't with this. Maybe I should just stop hanging out with him altogether. So please, someone give me a reality check. Am I cheap, stingy, cold-hearted for not splurging on my siblings? And does this somehow make me the jerk? Because right now I'm seriously frustrated and I don't know what to do. Dude, there's no way you're the jerk. Your siblings are so stupid. Literally, the second they did that to me at that restaurant is the second I would never go to some kind of outing like this with them ever again. Because clearly, this is their true colors. They refuse to get a job, they refuse to have any kind of income, so they look to you to try and like fulfill their weird fantasies. And it's like, dude, if you want to have nice things, then save up and buy them yourself. Don't mooch off your sibling. Like, dude, what are you doing right now? So no, you're definitely not the jerk. These people are incredibly selfish, and the fact that they're calling you a bad person over this, in my opinion, is proof enough that they are not very kind to you, and you do not need that in the slightest. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. If you want to share your own stories, check the link in the description because we would love to hear what you have to say. Let's get started. Am I the jerk for confronting my friend who constantly hops between groups of friends only to date all the guys in them? Because right now she's trying to make it sound like we ruined her entire life, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So I became friends with this girl who I will call May ever since the 11th grade, but truth be told, we never had a real connection. I would describe May as an academically smart girl, yet when it comes to life outside of books, aka street smarts, she was absolutely clueless. I started noticing red flags the moment she began hanging out with the boys. It wasn't just casual friendship. I mean, she had a pattern. She would join a group of guy friends, get close to every single one of them, flirt heavily, and then often end up dating one of them. When that didn't work out, she would shift her attention to the next guy in the same group. Eventually, the guys would start fighting, groups would break apart, and May would play innocent the entire time, like she had no idea what caused the chaos. Meanwhile, she would cancel plans with me using weak excuses, saying to me, "Oh, I'm tired, I have schoolwork." But somehow she was never too tired to go out with one of the guys. But that double standard didn't go unnoticed. Still, we stayed quiet until graduation, when her true colors finally came out. Everything exploded after one of our mutual friends posted a vague messenger note about girls who act innocent but are male-centered. No names, no shade, but just general vibes. But not even a minute later, May messaged us asking, "Is this about me?" She sensed it, and for once, she was right. We panicked and told her a fake story to cover it up, but she caught the inconsistencies. But then this is where the message came that changed everything. "Do you hate me? Tell me why right now." Well, out of guilt, we did. We told her the truth. We said that she friend hops, that she flirts with every guy in the group until they turn on each other, that she bails on her real friends the second a guy texts her, that we feel used, overlooked, and like backup plans. She replied with a weak apology filled with excuses and over-explanations, and just when we hope for some real accountability, she said she would change, but only for the latest guy she's dating, who is the final untouched friend in the same guy group, which is also the same guy she's been ranting to us about. An hour later, she messaged again, this time accusing us of spreading rumors, which for the record were all true, but the word got out because of our mutual friend. She was updating the ex-infatuation of May, who for the record was best friends with a guy she was recently seeing. The drama spread fast, and suddenly we were the villains in her story. But this wouldn't have happened if she just stopped chasing the male attention she was so clearly living for. And this is the moment we saw her for who she truly is. And the worst part about it is that she still doesn't see what's wrong. So am I the jerk in this situation, or are my friends the jerks? Because right now, things are incredibly messy. No, you're not the jerk at all. This is so stupid. May literally dug this grave for herself, and now is trying to act like, wait a second, this is not my fault, this is your fault for saying anything. But obviously you and the rest of your friends are not the only people to take note of this happening. Like seriously, this is so dumb for her to try and pin it on you. So no, you're not the jerk here, you didn't do anything wrong, and if anyone's to blame in this situation, it is 100% May. She literally did this all to herself. Am I overreacting for not wanting to cook dinner for my nightmare neighbors, as I feel that they are taking advantage of my family by literally eating us out of house and home? Here's what's going on. Okay, so my neighbors are friends of my parents of 20 years. We used to meet up once or twice a year at each other's place and go on road trips together. We decided to move to a different state together and buy houses next door. We bought them a $100 gift for their housewarming, and they stayed over for a week with full meals with their adult son at our place because their furniture didn't come along yet, and we had to cook cook nonstop with no help from them, and they eat a lot. Well, they gave us a cheap cutlery set for our housewarming gift, even though it was my dad's research that went into them even getting a house because they piggybacked off of us. Over the span of 3 months, we called them numerous times to eat at our place, apart from them staying for a week. I mean, we felt they overstayed their welcome and didn't even give us a gift for our new house, and for their housewarming, the wife made us wake up at 5 in the morning and made a mess of our kitchen cooking heavy meals with our resources. Mind you, my dad doesn't have a job now for the past year, and they literally just don't care. They called us twice over 3 months to eat and gave us roasted vegetables, while they got elaborate meals that cost hundreds of dollars outside. Also, they want to go everywhere in our car as it is larger, meaning that my dad has to drive and they don't have to pay for gas. And they use our resources without paying back, like potting soil, for example. My parents want to forgive them because the wife randomly made a snack for the first time and gave it to us. So my family thinks they're ready to be generous. And it's like, seriously? The wife is so fake, always saying, "I was going to make this for you, but I never had time." I also have no privacy in my home, and they feel entitled to eat what we make for ourselves, always bursting in the evening when the wife is going to walk with my mom. My dad yesterday said I make good pizza, and the husband said, "Oh, well, she's never offered it to us before." And he said this in a very condescending way. Like, just because I make something for my family doesn't mean that they're entitled to it as well. Now, as a side note, my dad later said I was overreacting and that he was not condescending, but I'm not going to overlook my instinct. Not to mention that the husband is a bit of a creep, always checking out women, including me and my mom. My parents say to put hatred behind us and to be generous. Also, these two people, as their kids moved out, eat 5 times an average human, even if they call us. We eat a lot less, but we can't afford to keep feeding them on no income. And this is literally my opinion, but my parents want to be generous for some reason. But my dad wanted to keep his promise of pizza, and that I have to make dinner for them despite my mom just calling them last week and making food that took all day to make. I used to cook so much in my house, but now I hate cooking thinking the neighbors will burst in. I don't want to make pizza for them because I'll have to make 10 for those 2 people. I don't want to be close to them, but it's too late. And we are neighbors probably for life. And I don't really have an option to move out, but my family calls me a terrible human being because I don't want to feed the neighbors. But this is honestly just too much. Also, the wife is so fake and talks to my mom as if she cares about me. So my mom is on her side too. Basically, we can't leave the house without telling them where we're going, even if we're going to a store. Plus, they have no kids, so they usually just tag along. And I really just don't like them at all because of how freeloading they are. And it seems like for the rest of eternity, vacations have to be all with them. I hate it and enjoy my family's company, and I don't want to be with these people every single day. So am I overreacting here? Because right now I'm still very frustrated. No, you're not overreacting at all. Like, your neighbors sound obnoxious. And the part that really sticks out to me is the fact that they're just barging into the house and being like, "Okay, what's for dinner?" Like, dude, there's no way I would allow that. That's not okay. And I really think your parents are being super dumb about this entire thing. I understand being generous, but this is way more than just being generous. These people are taking advantage of you guys. So on that note, I don't blame you for like not wanting to cook for them. They eat way too much food and literally all of your food, and they walk around with this weird entitlement of like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna cook for us." And that's super annoying. So no, I would not want to cook for them if I was in your shoes. I would shut that request down immediately and say, "No, this is not happening. I'm not doing it." Because their behavior, in my opinion, is incredibly selfish. My managers literally punish me for showing up early just to help out and get things started for the day, which honestly makes me sad because I was just trying to do my job to the best of my ability. Here's what happened. Okay, so I used to work at a bank as a teller. Now, it wasn't glamorous, but it was easy and convenient as I lived a hop, skip, and a jump away. A 5-minute walk and you could see the bank from my house. As such, I was almost always one of, if not the first person there. We were expected to be there by 7:15 to open at 7:30 a.m., but the managers tried to get there early so that we had time to set up. Stuff like logging in, filling the drawers, and having a morning meeting, stuff like that. When opening for the day, you need at least 2 people for safety reasons, so one of which was usually me, and I was frequently arriving at around 7 so the managers could unlock and we could just get set up. I had been clocking in after getting inside, which I guess was starting to add up, combined with the amount of times we have to stay past closing. I was told there's only a 6-minute grace period for clocking in early or late, that I had clocked in early way too many times, and that about 2 weeks of my punches would be adjusted. So I just said, "Okay, is this you specifically telling me to stop showing up early?" And they said, "Yes, it is." So you know what? I showed up at 7:20 every single day. I stopped being there early, I stopped helping set up, and I even took advantage of the grace period to be about 5 minutes late every day just to make sure I didn't get stuck helping set up anything. It sucked and it didn't work for anyone. We were frantic trying to open nearly every morning as most other employees didn't care about procedures. supervisors, just about their own drawers. Well, one day a few weeks later, a manager asked me if I could come in earlier than usual to help out with the alarm tests. They were supposed to be done once a month, and for almost a year, I was the one who did them with the opening manager. Apparently, the test was supposed to get done that morning, but the other employee didn't show up early enough to start before we opened for the day. And once they asked that, I said sure, no problem. I was then in by 7 o'clock the next morning and I clocked in. But to me, it's so sad that we live in a world where trying to be efficient is seen as trying to game the system, because I was honestly just trying to do my job to the best of my ability. Yeah man, this sucks so much. You literally were like the good employee of that place. You showed up on time and you showed up early so that the managers could do their job. So for anyone to be like, oh yeah, we're adjusting your clock in time, like first of all, that's wage theft and there's no way I would ever put up with that. But also any problems or like delays they experience are literally their own fault at that point. They're bringing it upon themselves to say, no, we don't want the extra help, and yes, we want problems in the morning. So yeah, that really sucks, and I know what you mean by like trying to do your best and getting punished for it. Because most managers and people in charge are idiots and they don't see the benefit of someone showing up early like the way that you were. And that in my opinion really sucks. An entitled Karen demands that we give her a discount, all because she's been a loyal shopper and spent a lot of money at our store. But despite the fact that I tell this lady over and over again that we can't do that, she decides to get right up in my face demanding a discount, saying that I can override the system just for her. Here's what happened. So I'm an 18-year-old female and I work at a retail store in the mall. And yesterday I had an encounter with a customer that I'm still kind of shocked by. It's one of those situations where I had to share it because honestly, I don't even know how people like this even exist. A woman probably in her early 30s comes up to the counter with a few items, which is pretty standard. She's dressed from head to toe in designer clothing and is carrying around one of those huge bags that screams, I'm rich. And the second that she gets up to the counter, she gives me the most condescending look. I give her my usual greeting by saying, hey there, how's your day going today? And she responds by saying, I don't need your small talk, just ring up the items. So I think to myself, okay, fine, no problem. I ring up the item and I tell her that it comes out to $112.47. She looks at me and says, excuse me, that can't be right. I've been shopping here for years and I always spend a ton of money. I deserve a discount. Now I'm standing here kind of taken aback because as much as I'm trying to be polite, I know there's no loyalty discount or anything like that. The store just doesn't do that. But either way, I try to keep it professional. I say to her, I'm really sorry, but unfortunately we don't have a loyalty program that offers discounts like that. We do have a sale going on, though I've already applied that discount to your items. Well, when I said that, she just glares at me like I've personally offended her. She says to me, no, that is not what I'm talking about. I'm a VIP customer here. I'm a regular. I spend a lot of money. I should get a better discount and you need to do something about this. At this point, I'm just trying to keep my cool because honestly, I know where this is going. I say to her, I really wish I could help more, but I can't offer a bigger discount unless there's a promotion running. That is just the policy here. She then huffs and leans over the counter to get even closer to me. She looks at me and says, I'm telling you, I know you can override the system. Just give me the discount because I deserve it, okay? Now, I am not dealing with this, but either way, I stay calm. I can't break store policy, and I'm just trying to get through this conversation without making it worse. I say to her that no, I really can't override the system, but I can ask my manager to check if you'd like. She then sneers at me and says, fine, get your manager. Maybe they'll have some common sense. So I call my manager over, and she comes over all calm and professional, ready to handle the situation. This Karen immediately jumps into her complaint. This girl is refusing to give me a discount. I've been shopping here since the store opened, and I spend so much money. You need to do something about this. My manager looks at me, then gives a quick glance at the total and just sighs out loud. She knows exactly what's going on. My manager says to her, I'm sorry, but as my employee mentioned, there's no extra discount unless it's a promotion. We really value our customers, but we have to stick to our store policy. This Karen then says, you have got to be kidding me. You're going to lose business by treating loyal customers like this. I will never shop here ever again, and I'll tell all my friends how terrible your store is. And with that, this Karen grabs all her belongings off the counter and then literally storms out of the store without buying anything. All that drama, and she didn't even buy the stuff that she came in for. And I don't know if I should be relieved or frustrated. I just can't believe how entitled some people are. She honestly thought that demanding a discount and threatening bad reviews would somehow get her special treatment. Yeah, this kind of behavior is so annoying. First of all, if I was like the employee there, I'd be like, wait a second, you're never coming back? Do you promise to never come back? Because that would be great. Like truly, this is a victory because you never have to deal with her ever again. But seriously, for her to demand some kind of discount just because she shops there a lot, that is obnoxious and so uncalled for. And chances are she's probably just some scammer that's trying to like, I don't know, work the system in some way. Because not even your manager knew knew who this lady was. If they did, they probably would have told you about it and reprimanded you afterwards. They would have been like, oh yeah, she comes here a lot, you've got to do what she says. But that clearly wasn't the case, so this lady was probably just trying to work the system. So good for you and your manager for standing your ground, because this lady sounded incredibly annoying. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An idiotic robber gets cold feet in the middle of the act, choosing not to steal from our grocery store while also unsuccessfully stealing a bike from the front of our store. And I've honestly never been more perplexed at somebody failing to break the law. Here's what happened. So a few years ago at this point, I was working in a grocery store, which is unlike the sports equipment store that I work at now. I remember this story well because 2 days in a row, something stupid happened, and this was one of them. 2 days before our National Day, I was at work during the evening. Suddenly, while I'm having my lunch break, my colleagues come in and ask me for help. So I follow them, and on the way, I'm briefed about a thief having stolen a bike from the store entrance. For reference, a man who was a regular customer, who always rode his bike to the store, had his bike stolen, and he would normally park it inside, but for whatever reason he didn't. Well, lucky for him, there are cameras in the entrance that caught the culprit red-handed, and this is where the hilarity ensued from here. I go check the security tapes to prep for the police to show up, as the victim had been called, and this is what I observed. About 5 minutes after the bike was left in the entrance, the culprit shows up, looking back and forth a few times. He puts some gloves on and walks off with the bike, with his face clearly in view. Well, fast forward about 7 minutes, and the thief returns to the store. The victim is still there, and they start talking together, and it turns out they know each other. Now, there's no way in the world we can tell the victim that it's the thief, since we have no idea if he becomes violent or not. So we keep our eyes on the thief, which is something he eventually notices. On the camera feed, you can see him walking around and shoving stuff into his shirt and pants like a sneaky beaver. When he notices us observing him, he panics and starts emptying the stolen goods from his pants and shirt in random locations around the store before leaving. Well, the cops eventually showed up immediately after he left. I show them the tapes and we identify the guy, and believe it or not, they already knew him. And while I was talking with the police, the bike had magically shown up in the entrance again, with the police leaving to go pick this guy up anyways. So truly, to the thief that had cold feet, I hope you stay safe, because the police are on their way to pick you up as we speak. Oh man, that story is crazy for so many reasons. The guy stealing the bike from the customer was a friend of the customer, and this is also someone that the cops already knew about. Like, what is going on right now? How did the cops know that this guy's like a notorious thief, but the friend doesn't know that this guy has a sketchy past, as well as the fact that he was going to steal his own friend's bike? Like, this is the weirdest and most unsuccessful heist on planet Earth. So yeah, hopefully that guy got arrested, because people who steal like that, in my opinion, are absolutely pieces of garbage. Today, I really messed up by calling my professor daddy during a Zoom class presentation, because right now, I don't know if I'll ever live this down, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So yeah, this happened earlier today, and I still want to die. I'm a 20-year-old female, and I had to do this big presentation on Zoom for one of my classes. I was already nervous because public speaking freaks me out, but I had my notes ready, and I was just trying to get through it. About halfway through, my professor, who is this super serious older guy, stopped me and asked a question. I went to unmute myself, and instead of saying, "Yes, professor," my brain fully glitched, and I said, "Yes, daddy." The second it left my mouth, I just froze. The whole class went dead silent. Then someone in the chat was like, "No way," and people started spamming laughing emojis. My professor just stared at me for what felt like forever and was like, let's move on. I tried to play it off and keep talking, but I was so flustered I forgot half my points, and people in the chat wouldn't stop. One dude literally renamed himself Daddy on Zoom. I logged off right afterwards because I couldn't deal with the shame. Now my group chat is roasting me nonstop. They're sending me memes and calling me Daddy's girl, and I'm scared to show up to the next class, and I swear I will probably never live this down. Okay, honestly, this is hilarious, because this has literally happened to everybody at some point. Maybe not to the extent of you calling them daddy or even like mommy, but I know I've called my teachers in class mom or dad when I was in like high school or even like elementary school, but the fact that this happened in college is even funnier. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would just roll with it and laugh with them, because objectively speaking, this is really hilarious. And I think that if you just go with it, this will probably make the entire situation a little bit easier to handle. Would I be the jerk if I tell my husband's ex that she has to move out after she and her kid had to move in with us temporarily? Because right now, I'm being judged incredibly harshly by my family, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been married to my husband for 1 year, but we've been together for 3. He has 2 children, ages 6 and 8, from his previous relationship, but we do not have any kids together. Their mom, who we will call Anne, Ann has one child, and they have a good co-parenting relationship, and Ann and I get along. Last week when Ann picked up the kids, she told us that the kids might need to spend a few weeks with us because her and her current husband are getting a divorce. Now, the house is in his name as he had it when they got together, and she's been a stay-at-home mom for their whole relationship. She said she was going to stay with her sister, but they don't have enough room for all 3 kids. Now, I jumped in before my husband could say anything, and I offered her the guest room and told her the girls can share a room here just like they do at her house. That way, she didn't have to miss her time with the kids, and we could help with her daughter while she gets a job and gets things figured out. Well, she thanked us and said she'd let us know when she would be moving out as soon as she could. My husband asked me if I was 100% okay with it, and that it wouldn't be fair to get her in here and then have an issue later on, but I told him I was okay, and we would work through anything that comes up. Well, that was 3 months ago. She has lived with us for 2 months now, and everything is great. And it's actually better than great if I'm being honest. Having her here means I don't have to take both kids to the store if I need something for dinner. Housework is divided between 3 people, and she's gotten a job and isn't having to pay for childcare, which is about $700 a week in our area. And even though I told her she didn't have to, she is giving us $500 a month for bills. Now, I was talking to my sister and my cousin at our early Thanksgiving, and my sister said I'm crazy for letting her stay with us, that I'm devaluing myself as a partner, and I'm being a jerk to myself for allowing this to continue, with my cousin agreeing with her. She said the only reason his ex would agree to stay is if she still wanted to sleep with him, and him agreeing means that he wants to as well. Now, I don't see them behaving any differently than before, and I truly trust my husband, but now I'm starting to doubt my decision. So would I be the jerk if I tell her that she needs to find somewhere else to live? Would I be a jerk to myself if I don't listen to them and let her stay? What should I do? Okay, for starters, this is definitely something you should probably talk to your husband about first before you make any kind of decision. Imagine going in there and being like, okay, it's time for you to move out, and I'm only making this decision because of my sister and cousin. Like, what are we doing right now? That doesn't seem rational at all, because that's kind of the vibe I get from this, where it seems like you're only wanting to do this because you're being judged for it, instead of this being like some kind of decision that all of you want to make, namely you and your husband. And don't forget, when you say, hey, you've got to move out, you're literally uprooting a lot of children out of their lives all of a sudden. So sure, if you do want her to move out, then there might be some middle ground where you're like, okay, you've got like 60 days to find a new place to live, and we can help you find somewhere to live to get that process going. But to go there and be like, you've got to leave now because I'm being judged, like that's crazy to me, and that is absolutely irrational. And no, you're not devaluing yourself as a partner, and just because your husband agreed to this doesn't mean he wants to sleep with his ex. Like, your sister and cousin are completely out of their mind. They don't know what they're talking about. So personally, I think the way you handle your house is your own business, and I definitely would not allow anybody to make that decision for me. I found out that my boyfriend has been hiding $63,000 in credit card debt, and now after being lied to for several years, I feel like I'm at a breaking point and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been with my boyfriend for over a year and a half. We live together and he is my best friend, and I honestly thought that we had it figured out. The other day, I grabbed a piece of mail for him someone dropped off from his old building. They said it was a check, so I opened it, and it ended up being a consolation loan offer of about $63,000. We had talked about finances several times, and he said he had $15,000 in student loans left, and that was it. I called him, and he denied having any credit card debt and then stopped responding. He came home from work and didn't say anything. And finally, 2 days later, I brought it up and he admitted it. He said he was going to pay it off before I ever noticed, and that he was ashamed of himself. We were planning on staying in this apartment for another year and then buying a house. When we toured the units, I pushed for something nicer. We could have gotten a cheaper rent. We could have budgeted and eaten at home. I honestly thought he was financially conservative and that he had it together before this. He always followed through on everything that he said. He's on time for everything. He's organized. I mean, he was supposed to be the responsible one. I honestly can't believe that someone like him would let this happen, let alone lie to me for months and plan a future with me while being in crippling debt. I feel like my whole perception of him was a lie. Every special thing he did was on a credit card. He has no savings and has been talking about buying a house with me and building a life. I love him so much, but our whole dynamic feels different. I don't know what to think. The trust is broken, and I no longer see him as an equal, rock-solid partner when I look at him. I wanted to get married and buy a house in the next 2 years with him, and all of a sudden, that dream is dead, and I'm dating a financially illiterate 31-year-old with no savings and a mountain of debt. How do I move forward from this? What should I do? Okay, for me, it's not even the debt that makes him like super immature and just a complete idiot. It's the fact that he lied about it and hid it from you. Like, that part alone is absolutely toxic, and that is a massive red flag. It doesn't matter if he's embarrassed about it. You are quite literally the person person that should know about this information, and the fact that he hid it from you is really dishonest. So truly, I'm so sorry this happened to you, because this is something he absolutely should have told you about. Am I the jerk for walking out of my birthday party after my roommate invited literally 50 people and hired a DJ for something that I was told would be a small and intimate get-together? Because right now, my roommate is mad at me for leaving the party, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I share a condo with my roommate who we will call Sarah. Sarah and I have been friends for a few years, and since we live together, she offered to throw a small birthday party at our place. Now, I was on board with it because I don't like huge gatherings, and I prefer intimate celebrations with close friends. And on top of that, I also have slight social anxiety. Leading up to the party, I asked her what the plans were, and she assured me that it would be a small get-together, just a few of our mutual friends, with some cake and maybe a movie, and that honestly sounded perfect to me. Well, the day of the party rolls around, and when I came home, I quickly realized it was anything but small. Sarah had invited a ton of people, at least 50. Some were mutual friends, but a lot of them were people I barely knew or hadn't even met before. She had also set up a bunch of party decorations, she had hired a DJ, and there was even a huge table of food and drinks. It felt like a full-blown house party and not the chill gathering that I was expecting. I immediately felt overwhelmed. I don't do well in big social situations, especially when I'm the center of attention, and this was way more than I had anticipated. So I pulled Sarah aside. I asked her why she invited so many people when we had agreed on something small. Well, she just shrugged it off and said, "Oh, come on, it's your birthday. I wanted to make it feel special." Now, I appreciated the effort, but this wasn't what I wanted at all. I felt completely uncomfortable and anxious. After trying to stick it out for a bit, I just couldn't handle it, and I decided to leave. I ended up going to a nearby coffee shop to calm down and just clear my head. Well, after I left, Sarah texted me. She was asking me where I was. I told her that I wasn't comfortable with the party and that I needed some space. Well, she was upset and said that I was being ungrateful for everything she did for me. And now some of our friends are saying I overreacted and that Sarah was just trying to be nice by throwing me a big party. Now, I feel bad for leaving, but I also feel like she completely ignored what I wanted. So, am I the jerk for walking out of my own birthday party, all because it wasn't the small event that I expected? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk, and yes, I totally understand that Sarah probably went to a lot of effort to plan this, but she also knew that you wanted something small and intimate. So when you show up to a big, full-blown house party, I can imagine that your nerves would go through the roof. Like you were told one thing, and then you came up to something completely different. So I completely understand why you would feel overwhelmed and be like, okay, I have got to get out of here. This is not what I was expecting. So I think if anything, it might be time to talk to Sarah and be like, look, I get overwhelmed in big crowds, especially when it's people that I don't know, which in my opinion is something that Sarah probably knew, but she decided to ignore it and invite 50 people all of a sudden, which kind of leads me to believe that she used your birthday as an excuse to have some massive party and get together. So no, you're not the jerk for walking out, because it really does seem like Sarah was being very disingenuous in this moment. And if I were in your shoes and I felt the way that you did about this, then I probably would have walked out as well. Am I the jerk for not inviting my mom to go wedding dress shopping with me after she made my life miserable the last time she went? Because right now she's claiming she's embarrassed in front of all of her friends, with my dad demanding that I apologize to her. But right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female planning my wedding for next year. Now I'm very early in the process, but I have started going dress shopping. For context, I haven't always had the best relationship with my mom. She tends to be a bit narcissistic and negative towards everything, but I've learned to get used to it since I was raised by her. For a bit of backstory, I've never felt very feminine, and usually I tend to portray a tomboy type of vibe. While growing up, she would always make comments of my weight or my appearance, or even one time while prom dress shopping, I said I wanted to feel beautiful in my dress, and she said, well, you aren't beautiful, you're just cute, so you'll never truly be beautiful. So the moral of the story is that the first 2 times I went dress shopping for my own wedding gown, I took her with me because I wanted validation from her, and I really wanted her to think that I look beautiful. And I know it's dumb to do, but it's a trauma thing, and I realize it's a me issue as well. Anyways, during each of those dress fittings, she wouldn't say anything necessarily bad or negative, but she just overall seemed disinterested or somehow made it about her. At one point, I even broke down crying in the middle of the store because of her lack of presence. Now, I was very hurt by her lack of interest or maternal warmth, so I decided that the next time I went, I would try on some dresses without her, just to see if I was less anxious or stressed out. And when I did that, I happened to find a dress that I loved and bought that day. It was a much better time overall as well, and I honestly enjoyed it, but a part of me felt slightly guilty for not including her, but mainly I was upset that she wasn't offering the emotional support or even the maternal comfort that I would hope to get from my mother. But eventually, I thought I got over it, that is until my dad called me up. He then told me about how hurt and bothered she is, that I didn't even tell her I was going, let alone invite her, and now she is embarrassed because her friends are asking details and she wasn't made aware of any of them because she wasn't included in the last dress fitting. He wants me to apologize to her because I hurt her feelings, but she won't even answer my calls and very briefly will respond to a text with a one-word answer. I'm seeing her in person tomorrow, but I can't tell if I'm the jerk for not including her in a special moment that was meant for her as well. Am I justified in my initial thoughts and actions? What should I do? Okay, first off, no, you're not the jerk, and no, you didn't embarrass your mom. She clearly was treating you like crap while also bragging to her friends about the dress fitting. Like, I really believe she never truly cared about your dress fitting, and she was only using this event as some way of making herself look good. Because you said it yourself, she was acting overall disinterested, and somehow she made it all about her. Like, if I was in your shoes, I would feel the same way. I would feel like, wow, she does not like me and she doesn't want to be here. And in my opinion, someone's attitude speaks volumes to the things they're actually saying. Which, guess what? Your mom was failing on both fronts. So if that's the way she's gonna act towards your dress fitting, then fine, go for it. But that doesn't mean I'm obligated to make you come along and ruin this day for me. And also, in my opinion, this is not about her, and in no way can she stake a claim over your dress fitting. Like, this is not some big event for her, especially when she wasn't acting like it. Like, seriously, this is so weird it's not even funny. But I think the best part about this is that she really did get so offended when you stepped aside and said, no, I'm gonna figure this out on my own. Because that's when she realized she couldn't sit there and say horrible things about you and essentially dampen the mood entirely. So no, you're not the jerk in this situation, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. An entitled Karen hits me up in my DMs on Instagram, demanding that I send her money so that she can get an Uber, claiming that she can pay me back with groceries from her food card. But once I told this Karen no, she absolutely lost her mind, turning this entire scenario against me in a way that I truly did not expect. And I'm honestly so glad she blocked me, because I never want to deal with a scam like this ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm an 18-year-old female, and I just got the strangest Instagram direct message from some random lady asking me to send her $40 for an Uber, and in exchange she would buy me groceries on her grocery card. It legitimately sounded like a scam, and if it wasn't, then what was she thinking? The exchange went as follows. This random lady said to me, "Can you help me get an Uber? I'll buy you groceries with my food card if you do. I just got a crazy amount of money on my food card and I can order a pickup order for you. It's $38, but it would be like $31 with Apple Pay, and I do have it. I know I don't know you, but I saw you from a body positive political comment and I agree with you, and I felt the need to connect here and just see what's going on." Well, I responded by saying, I'm just gonna say this really sounds like a scam, and if not, then my god, you've got some audacity asking me for money when I don't even know you. For all I know, we don't even live in the same country. Like, what is going through your head right now? I'm not trying to be rude, and I'm just trying to be realistic and straight up. Like, seriously, ask your friends, not me. I am not your bestie. This lady then responds by saying, it is not a scam, and you are just a jerk. Like, seriously, you just can't help anybody out, can you? You're the type to not help out homeless people or charities. Screw you, you absolute jerk. Like, you could have been nice, but no. Instead, you're just a massive jerk. I responded by saying, lady, you are not a charity. You're just some greedy lady on Instagram. So as far as I'm concerned, you can either take the bus or you can walk. But either way, just shut up. This lady responds back by saying, actually, you don't know my life. I live with disabilities and I live with my mom. There's also no buses at night, you idiot. So screw you, because it really seems like you don't care about anybody else except for you. I respond back by saying, okay, well, call your mom then. Why are you asking a random girl on the internet? Like, what are you even thinking about? After that, she proceeded to block me, which I don't care, because I was on my way to block her as well, but I wasn't about to let her try and make me feel bad when she came in here asking me for money because she agreed with one of my comments. I am not the bad guy here, and I know that, because like, it's obvious she's entitled and expects everyone to feel bad for her because she can't afford an Uber and supposedly lives with some kind of disability. And what makes her think that I can afford an Uber for her? Like, truly, it's mind-boggling to me what people think is okay because of the internet, especially when dealing with people who are truly trying to scam you. Oh man, this is the classic scenario of like, oh, give me some money and I'll pay you back later. It's like, no, that's not gonna happen. Like, I don't even know you. Like, this lady really thought she could go into your DMs and be like, oh, please give me money. I need money so bad, I'll pay you back. It's like, no, you won't. I'll never see that $40 again, like ever. The original poster would have been better off just lighting $40 $1,000 on fire than giving it to this lady. And I just love the fact that when you said no, they're like, wow, I can't believe you. And then they list off all these things they have wrong in their life as if that's your problem. And it's like, cool, you live with a disability and your mom? I can legitimately name like 5 people off the top of my head who are also in that situation, but they're not going around Instagram trying to use that to like bait people into giving them money. So truly, I love the way you handled this situation because this is something I would do as well. Because this lady was clearly trying to scam you. And the fact that you wasted her time in the process, in my opinion, is absolutely hilarious. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for asking my cousin to reimburse me for the Yu-Gi-Oh cards I loaned to him so that he could start playing professionally 7 years ago? Because now, after I found out he sold all of my cards for $3,000, I'm demanding that money as I feel that I deserve it more than he does. Here's what happened. So about 7 years ago, my cousin got back into playing Yu-Gi-Oh professionally. He got really good and he won a YCS championship and made it to the top for most of the other YCS tournaments. At that time, he needed some cards and I was no longer playing. I had some really rare cards from the original booster packs that they just don't make anymore. Cards that are worth hundreds, if not thousands. Some of those cards were useful for his deck, so I gave him my massive folder of cards to borrow whatever he needed. Well, long story short, he borrowed my cards, won some championships, made it to Japan for the finals, and then he quit after 2 years of playing. I hadn't paid much mind to the cards at this point, but just recently, I brought it up with a friend who mentioned that a majority of the cards I had let him borrow were worth a gold mine. Once I did some research and saw the prices, I got excited and asked my cousin if he still had the cards and if I could get them back. But he assumed that I had handed them over to him permanently for him to keep, and he recently sold the entirety of the folder, including his own cards, for a total of $3,000. So, am I the jerk for asking him to give me the entire $3,000? He never asked me if it was okay to sell them, and I never exclusively said that he could have the cards to keep. I never asked for them back until I saw the price, so I guess that's why I'm curious about the whole thing. Also, when I brought it up to him, he refused to give me any type of reimbursement, leading to an argument over who's at fault. So honestly, am I at fault here? What should I do? Okay, honestly, yes, you absolutely are the jerk. You gave him those cards 7 years ago. Literally, that's almost a decade ago you gave those cards to him. Sure, you phrased it like, oh, can I borrow this? But you're the one who never followed up and was like, okay, I want those cards back now that you're done playing. You didn't keep tabs on him, you didn't try and check in with him, and instead you just basically walked away from it. So if I was your cousin, I would be like, okay, I guess he doesn't want these cards back. Like, it really does boil down to that. So the fact that you're trying to come back 7 years later and be like, okay, I need that $3,000 that you earned off of my cards. Like, at that point, it's not your cards. You abandoned them and you basically gave it over to him. So he has every right to sell them or do whatever he wants with them. Because at the end of the day, if you didn't know how much they were worth, you probably would have never asked for them back, which honestly only hurts your case more when it comes to wanting that money in the first place. Am I the jerk for not letting the grocery delivery guy into my friend's apartment building, as he was literally waving me down and banging on the door, demanding that I open up for him? Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm on vacation in Las Vegas this weekend, where I'm staying at a friend's apartment. It is located in a large complex of towers, and the parking lot is guard gated, in addition to residents needing a key to open the lobby door. My friend had to work today and left me alone at his apartment with his second key. He warned me against losing the key because management is strict and it is expensive to replace. Around lunchtime, I ordered food delivery, and when my delivery showed that it was 5 minutes away, I went down to the lobby to wait for them and to meet them at their car as soon as they pulled up. Since it is cold, I waited in the lobby while watching the delivery tracker on my phone. After a minute, I could see in the corner of my eye a woman arrive with grocery bags. She tried to open the lobby door, and when she couldn't, she talked to a man on the intercom where she was basically saying, hey, I'm here for delivery, but still couldn't gain access to the lobby. A minute later, another person arrived with more bags and knocked on the door and waved at me, requesting that I let them in. Now, I would have taken the risk of letting them in if it was my own apartment, but I was anxious that I could get my friend in trouble with apartment management on the somehow off chance that this was some kind of hoax. For all I knew, this could be something the residents were explicitly warned about. In fact, I previously lived in a building that had a string of break-ins because of fake deliveries, and they would buzz random apartment numbers until they were let in. So it didn't seem out of the realm of possibility. I told them through the door, sorry, I can't do it. I don't actually live here and I don't know the building rules. And I repeated that apologetically a couple of times when the man kept gesturing at me angrily and repeating something sarcastic of, oh, of course you can't. Now, I was in the process of asking another resident who just got off the elevator if it was okay to let them in when they were finally buzzed in by whoever was on the intercom. As they walked by, I once again apologized about not knowing the building rules, and this guy actually yelled at me as they got on the elevator. So honestly, am I the jerk for not helping them? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk. These people don't even live at this apartment complex, and you don't even know them. And I know people who have done the exact same thing that you're talking about, where they buzz a random apartment number in some kind of effort just to get into the building. So I don't blame you for being cautious and being like, listen, I don't know you and I can't just let you in. Because knowing my luck, if I was in your shoes, the second I let them in is the moment they're like, oh yeah, that was a test and now you're in trouble. So no, you're not the jerk here. And the fact that this guy yelled at you, in my opinion, is so out of line. Because truly, at the end of the day, you didn't do anything wrong. Am I the jerk for putting my roommate's dirty dishes in front of his door after he basically refuses to ever clean up after himself? Because right now, I'm very frustrated and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for context, my roommate and I are both in college, and we've known each other ever since elementary school. We thought living together would be a good idea, but instead, it's been an absolute disaster. Before he moved in, I lived alone and kept the apartment spotless. And once he moved in, the place became a mess. After the first week, he left cooked food on the counter and stove for days, splattering grease everywhere, and I seriously couldn't even use the kitchen. I tried to talk to him about it, but he belittled me and didn't take it seriously. So I told my parents, and they tried talking to his mom, but she just brushed it off and said that he would clean it. Well, he did clean, but then claimed that I should have just talked to him. However, the situation kept getting worse. About a month ago, I got sick and I went home for the weekend. When my parents came back to help with food, they were horrified to find the kitchen covered in trash and dirty dishes. I mean, the smell was unbearable, and we ended up cleaning for 3 hours. Afterwards, my parents called his mom again, and she yelled at them, calling them crazy and saying they had no right to be involved. And now we're back to the same issue. The counter is covered with food, including rotten meats, eggs, and dairy, which has been sitting for days. I texted him to clean it up, and he said he would the next day, but he didn't do it. I've been unable to eat properly this week, and I'm a collegiate athlete, so it's really affecting my performance. So I took all of his food and I put it in 2 bags, leaving it in front of his bedroom. Now I want to know, am I the jerk for taking this extra measure? He's been sick multiple times this semester, which I think is due to his hygiene, and I feel like I'm paying the price as well. What should I do? Honestly, I think you did the right thing by putting it in front of his door, because what else are you supposed to do? You've tried talking to him, you've tried talking to your parents, you've tried getting his parents involved. Like seriously, what's the problem with this guy? Either clean up your mess or move out. Like he really just doesn't care about the cleanliness of this apartment, and then he's gonna sit there and be like, well, you've just gotta talk to me about it. And it's like, dude, I tried to talk to you about it. You pushed it aside and you belittled me. Your mom even brushed it off. Like, what else am I supposed to do? So personally, if I was in your shoes, I would start the process of finding a new roommate, because this guy clearly is not working out, because his behavior is incredibly disrespectful and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend's mom off after she literally is trying to dictate what we can and cannot do on Thanksgiving? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I don't really have too much say when it comes to holidays, and that's because his mom always tells us what we're doing. In the past 7 years of our relationship, we have yet to include my family for some sort of holiday. Everything has to be done his mother's way. This year, him and I discussed how frustrating it is that my family makes the sacrifices of not doing anything on the actual day of the holiday and pretty much get put on the back burner. He respected my feelings and said that we should do a full family Thanksgiving. And since we worked that day, we decided to do it the Friday after. We told both sides of the family, and my family loved the idea since they never really got to know his family. But his mother immediately said no, and Thanksgiving will be at his sister's house where she lives. He fought and said that she's more than welcome to join us, but we're having Thanksgiving at our house. This took days of convincing, and we literally called her multiple times. Eventually, she settled by saying, well, I'll allow it if I can host. Now, for reference, his parents had a nasty split, and his dad bought out the house that we all live in. It was hard enough to convince him to allow a big party here and to let his mother come in too. But now she wanted to host? It's only my boyfriend, his dad, his sister, and his mom on his side of the family, and I have 13 other members on my side coming to Thanksgiving. So it really makes the most sense for me to host. Now, it doesn't help that she is very dramatic. She cries literally every time she comes to the house because she's an alcoholic. And I'm not saying that to be mean. She legitimately has been out of treatment several times and calls us both at wild times at night, just crying because she's drunk. On top of that, she then gets really aggressive and mean towards everyone. She's been a problem of the family's for a very long time. Now, we figured she wouldn't do it, but we never thought she would be this crazy about it. Now, his mom is making a bunch of excuses and telling us that we need to cancel and go to Thanksgiving on Thursday and not work. I understand the not wanting to be here, but it's the only place for both the families to be able to fit and eat dinner. Also, I'm getting so sick of being pushed around. She keeps blowing up our phone with nasty messages to the point where I tell her, and I quote, "I have been without my family every holiday since my boyfriend and I have been together, and I'm tired of it. If you don't want to come out, you don't have to. I'm sick of this back and forth garbage and everyone kissing your feet because you won't let anyone else do anything that isn't your way." Now, my boyfriend wasn't happy with my response, but he definitely understood. And now his mom has been screaming at him every day for the past week. He wants to just do what she's asking, which really sucks, and I do feel bad for him, but I want to be able to do things on holidays with my family too. Also, I don't even know if I want her around at this point because of all the drama. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation for telling off my boyfriend's mom? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Oh no, you're definitely not the jerk. His mom is completely out of line, and the fact that she would try this in the first place is so unbelievably toxic. Like, does she have to be in control of everything going on? Like, seriously, other people can't step up and be like, okay, I'll host Thanksgiving, or even something along those lines. Like, the way she's acting is so controlling, and it really is indicative of the way she basically runs that family, which also explains why your boyfriend's like, look, can I just do what she's telling me to do? He's probably really conditioned to this kind of behavior, whereas you're like, wait a second, this is not happening. So no, you're not the jerk for telling her off, because the way she's acting, in my opinion, is completely irrational, and neither you nor the rest of your family deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not talking to my sister anymore after she treated me like a servant by literally taking advantage of my kindness? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my sister and I were home alone while our parents were on a week-long trip. For reference, we are both in our early 20s. The weekend before, I had been staying at my boyfriend's house, and my sister called to ask me to spend at least the first couple of nights with her, since she's usually scared to sleep alone at the beginning. I wasn't planning on it, but after a big argument last time I didn't stay, and her telling me that she felt abandoned when I left her to sleep alone, I decided to go back and stay with her. It turned out that the first 2 nights, she went out with her friends and I barely saw her, and the day after that, I came home to find that she had 6 or 7 friends over. They were served drinks and snacks, and a couple dishes were left in the sink. Her friends also left their shoes at the entrance, creating a mess since it had been raining. I asked if she could clean that when she had a second, but she never did. Now, I didn't say anything, and I just cleaned up after them by loading the dishwasher. And as a point of clarity, yes, all the dishes were from her and her friends. That night, she went out again and didn't come back until the next day after an all-nighter with her friends. Now, I wasn't upset. She doesn't get to go out much because our parents are strict, so I was happy that she was having fun. But what annoyed me was that I had arranged my plans to stay with her, and she barely spent any time with me. But at that point, I kind of understood. But what really hurt me happened the next day. We had talked about making a dish that we both like, so I made it. And I did this since she doesn't know how to cook and never bothered to try and learn. But she was out with her friends yet again, and when she called to ask if she could bring 2 of them over for dinner, I heard how excited she was, and I didn't have the heart to say no. I told her to bring them over, and I started making more food to make sure there was enough for everybody. I also made an extra meal for the next day, since I knew I wouldn't have time to cook them. In total, I spent 4 hours cooking 4 different dishes and a dessert. Well, fast forward, and she didn't come home until close to midnight. And when she came over, she was alone. She didn't even have the decency to call me to cancel the plan. Again, I wasn't mad, and I understood that plans change. But after that, she went straight to her room and ate there. Well, this is where things took a turn. I went to her room and I asked if she could help me by putting the food in the fridge, as well as wiping down the counter and loading the remaining dishes in the dishwasher because my back was killing me from standing for so long. And at the time, she agreed, which I really appreciated. But an hour later, I saw she had gone to sleep without doing anything she promised. And at that point, I was really upset. After everything I had done for her, she couldn't even help with that small thing when I was in so much pain and I needed to lie down. She then said that she would do it tomorrow. So I ended up putting the food in the fridge myself and I just went to bed. The next day, I asked her if she was planning to clean the counter and to put the dishes in the dishwasher, and she said that she would. But a couple hours later, I asked when she would do it, and she snapped at me to stop bothering her. But I just wanted to know when she planned to do it, but she then just got mad, saying I shouldn't police her time. time, so I just left her alone. At 3:00 p.m., she started getting ready for work. I went up to her and I asked if she was still going to take care of the dishes, and she said yes and that she was just about to do it. And at that point, I just let her be. But when I checked the kitchen again, all she had done was put her plate, fork, and one pan in the dishwasher. She didn't even clean the counter or put the remaining dishes in the dishwasher. I asked her why, and she said she only agreed to do her dishes and not all of them, even though there was like 8 things max in the sink. I told her I mentioned all the dishes and not just hers, but she of course denied it. I then asked her to do the rest and she refused, saying that she didn't ask me to cook for her friends, and they didn't even come after all, so I shouldn't hold it against her. She also said that she didn't have time to do it as she was gonna be late for work. Now this isn't the first time she's done something like this. She always plays word games and does the bare minimum. I tried explaining that her actions made me feel unappreciated, but she got angry and told me that I shouldn't do things for people if I expect anything in return. All I wanted was a little appreciation and help, but I got no thank yous, no acknowledgement, or anything. And my parents are not much help in this situation. Whenever I try to talk about it, she raises her voice and things turn into an argument. And worst of all, my mom sides with her, saying she's my little sister and that I should take care of her because we're family. But it only seems to apply one way. My dad agrees with me, but suggests that I let it go to keep the peace. Honestly, I feel like crap. I don't know what to think anymore, and I hate feeling like I'm being used all the time. And this is not the first time this has happened. When she lived alone, I once made her food at our mom's request, and she returned the container full, saying that she didn't like what I made, even without bothering to clean it. So I've decided to stop talking to her completely until she chooses to apologize to me. But she is certain that she did nothing wrong, and I'm in the wrong for being upset at her. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. Your sister is crazy entitled, and if I was in your shoes, I would never help her out with anything like this ever again. Think about it for a second. She is literally taking advantage of your kindness. She's gaslighting you to try and make it sound like you said something that you didn't, and she's also refusing to do any of the bare minimum to show any kind of like appreciation. Also, it really seems like you're kind of being a pushover in this situation. You're allowing your sister to walk all over you. You literally sat there for 4 hours cooking up that dish, and then she didn't even bother to show up with her friends. Like if that happened to me, that would be the last straw and I would never help her with anything again. At that point, I wouldn't care if she's my younger sister. She's taking advantage of my kindness and I do not deserve that kind of treatment. So no, you're not the jerk for not talking to your sister anymore, because if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. An entitled ex-psycho boyfriend cheats on my best friend in a way that has completely ruined her. So I decide to get revenge by downloading a dating app and effectively catfishing this guy in a way that he will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so this story happened about 2 years ago. A girlfriend of mine had just broken up with a real piece of garbage, and I'm gonna call this guy Chris because that's the name that he gave to someone, but honestly, who knows if it's even real. To start things out, Chris was an absolute piece of garbage. He was emotionally manipulative and a pathological liar. She picked up on it fairly early and ended it after a few weeks when she found out that he was living with his girlfriend and his 5-year-old daughter. Now, I told the story to a coworker and a mutual friend over lunch, and I show her the pictures that my friend had sent me when they first got together. Well, when I show her this, her eyes bug out of her head, and she immediately sends a text to another friend of hers. This girl number 2 dated him for several months about a year and a half prior, and she's been in therapy ever since. He didn't give her the benefit of a reason to dump him, and instead just ghosted. He had given her a fake name and a fake job, and she couldn't figure out what had happened to him. She then sends back a bunch of pictures of the two of them, and it's definitely the same guy. And she thought that maybe he had passed away. Now this coworker gossips like crazy, so she sinks her teeth into this and gallops off into the sunset. Normally this is irritating, but honestly screw this guy, because her CIA skills uncover more people. There's a third woman who was sleeping with him around the same time my friend was, and she brings in a fourth woman. The last girl was from several years ago, probably around when his original girlfriend was pregnant. Those two knew each other and actually had a conversation about if it was okay to sleep with your friend's ex several years later. They didn't know about the original girlfriend or my friend who dumped him the most recently. He basically just wipes himself from social media every 6 months or so and just starts fresh. So this most recent woman number 3, has HSV2 and said he wasn't even remotely concerned about the possibility of transmission. So now everyone has to get tested. So anyways, I get a little bit high one evening and I decide to download Tinder. And truly, big shout out to the internet for providing me with quality fake pictures. Also to my husband for providing a bio from across the room where he was sitting on his game and enabling my petty BS much more than he probably should have. Well, I swipe on this guy almost immediately. He was like the 3rd or 4th person. He matches back within 5 minutes and is clearly down for anything. So I told him I was working in a town about an hour and a half north, staying at a hotel, while also saying what a bummer it was that he wasn't closer. And it was right then that my edible kicks in hard, and I put my phone away and we go to bed. Now it's about 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night in January in northern Canada. There's mountains of snow and ice all over the place. I figured that he would just get frustrated that I was far away, and maybe I'd get some slightly annoyed comments to screenshot and send to my friend. And I really didn't think this through because how could someone not see through it? Well, he went. He left and drove an hour and a half to arrive at like 11:30 at night for a girl who literally doesn't exist. I woke up the next morning to a dozen or so messages on that account that got progressively more pathetic and whiny as he dealt with a front desk. He eventually got fed up and called the German model whose picture that I stole an ugly jerk, who was probably just busy with some other guy and that I would miss out, and that if I ever wanted to level up with a real man, then I should let him know. I sent him a thumbs up emoji, I screen capped it, and then I sent it to my friend. Then after that, I deleted the profile. Now I have a really hard time feeling bad, even though it was probably a pretty sketchy drive. I mean, it was not subtle. I didn't even change the location settings, so if he looked, it would have said that I was less than 5 kilometers away and definitely not an hour and a half north. I sort of figured that his brain cells were burnt out from running parallel lives to the point where he couldn't critically think about whether or not somebody was very obviously a catfish or not. I don't know if his girlfriend found out about this incident, but the screen caps circulated for a while, and then he popped up on a Facebook dating group a few months later. The last I heard though, he has moved to a different city, and I'm fairly certain his girlfriend and child are still there. So the fact that this guy was cheating on people is so awful, and hopefully I ruined your gas tank by making you drive somewhere I definitely was not. Oh man, this guy is absolutely the worst type of person on planet Earth. For starters, this guy already has a family. This guy's a pathological liar, and chances are he's most likely a narcissist as well. Like, who in their right mind would be like, oh yeah, I've got a girlfriend and a 5-year-old daughter, but also I want to have girlfriends all over the place anytime I want. Like seriously, this guy's a piece of garbage. He's ruined so many different women's lives, and the fact that he keeps doing it is so alarming. So honestly, I think the fact that the original poster catfished this guy, in my opinion, is so wonderful, because this is karma working its magic in a way that this guy absolutely deserves. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for only putting my name on my group assignment, all because the rest of my group literally did nothing to contribute? Because right now they're angry with me, and I'm not sure if I'm at fault here. Here's what happened. So for context, I'm a high school senior, and for my first period, I have English 4. We all had to do a group assignment, and it was a group discussion, and then after the discussion, we had to answer the 5 or 6 questions the teacher gave us. So after the teacher handed us the assignment 15 minutes later, the group did not do anything, not even touch the paper itself. There are 2 guys and 1 girl, and the 2 guys were on their phone playing video games, while the girl was just scrolling on social media. So I decided to take responsibility in taking the paper and doing all of the work. Mind you, I tried to make them contribute by asking them questions, but they weren't answering me. After 20 minutes, I finished the questions, and I had the paper near me, so I put my name on it and I claimed to be finished. But apparently, the group expected me to put their names as well, when they did not help me at all. They left the work to me, but expected me to put their names on it since we are a group. Well, today I walked in class and it seems like they're all ignoring me, and apparently one of the guys told me that it was my fault that they didn't contribute and that all I did was hog the paper. But the paper was literally in front of the guys for 15 minutes. Now I keep thinking, because I really don't know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, no, you're not the jerk, because those people didn't do anything. They literally didn't help with any of the group project assignment, and instead they chose to sit there on their phone and do nothing. Like, that's a decision they made, and it absolutely is not your fault. So for me, if I was in the original poster shoes and I was sitting there being like, guys, we need to work on this, and then none of them did anything to help out, then there's no way I'm going to put their name on the paper themselves. At that point, that is their responsibility, not mine. So I personally love this type of energy because, trust me, we've all been there. We've all been in group projects where our partners are literally not doing anything to help out. They're either lazy and they don't do their portion of it, or they're literally just absent and doing anything else besides the project. So in my opinion, if your classmates have any problem with that, then they can take it up with a teacher who, honestly, I would go to them right away and explain the situation. Because I'm willing to assume that your handwriting is all over that paperwork. And the fact that they're angry with you after they didn't do anything to help out, in my opinion, is incredibly hypocritical. Would I be the jerk if I talked to my apartment manager manager about how my neighbor's very loud, nearly constant anger issues are affecting me and my partner, because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is a tricky one, and I would really appreciate some perspective on all of this. So here's the basics. My partner and I just moved into a new apartment, and other than this situation, we absolutely love it. We've been living here for about a month, but there is one big problem. Our upstairs neighbor, we'll just call him neighbor for the sake of the story, is really angry and opinionated about even the smallest, tiniest things. For example, I got yelled at for not putting my car far enough into our parking spot, even though the spots are extra long and the back was not sticking out. Also, my partner got screamed at for eating lunch at the communal picnic table because the neighbor thought that he was a homeless person. And also, on top of that, literally hours after we moved in, this neighbor lost his temper at me for not immediately putting a padlock on our back gate, which is barely visible from the street because apparently homeless people might come into our yard. Now here's the thing, this is nearly constant. We often hear him yelling right next to our front door or in his apartment, like straight up ranting and bellowing. He also keeps very odd hours. Like this might happen at 5 o'clock p.m. or at 3 in the morning. It wakes us up and then it's hard to get back to sleep until he's done ranting, which is just super frustrating. Now here's the complicating factors. The neighbor is both physically and cognitively disabled. In one of our rare civil conversations, he told me that he has MS, chronic pain, and a progressive neurological condition in his brain. It sounds really horrible and I really feel for him. This guy has also probably been sky high every time I've seen him, if you know what I mean. And this is especially judging from the smell. Now I have no issue with this because this particular substance is legal in my state. And if people want to use it, they have the freedom to do that. And it's usually not my business. But the issue here is that I don't think I, my partner, or even my property manager can have any kind of civil conversation with him about this in between his temper, him being perpetually baked out of his mind, and his cognitive issues. If I were to talk to him, I would just ask him to try and be less loud and confrontational, at least at night and early morning. I would not be aggressive at all. However, I don't feel at all comfortable criticizing the actions of a disabled person when the issues are very likely related to their disability. Even considering confronting my neighbor or reporting him to management makes me feel like a massive jerk. But on the other hand, this is our home. It is supposed to be our safe space. It's our sleep, which affects my health and quality of life because I am also chronically ill and a disabled person. I also feel strongly that even though disabilities can be awful and debilitating, a person has a certain responsibility to seek help and treatment if their behavior is disturbing and harmful to the people around them. So honestly, I don't know what to do. Would I be the jerk if I do something instead of just letting it be? Because right now I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. No, you're not the jerk for calling this guy out. What in the world is going on right now? First and foremost, you said it best. This is your house. And guess what? This guy has to abide by the same rules that you do. So when this guy's screaming at 3 o'clock in the morning, all because of some stupid rant that he wants to go on, then guess what? You not only don't have any reason to take that for a second, but you also have every right to record it. Now, if I was in your shoes, I would have already gotten like a video camera doorbell of some kind and placed that right on my door and record every single interaction he has with my front door. If this guy's screaming at me, then I want evidence I can report to management. Like the way he's acting is completely unacceptable. He has no right to treat you or anybody else that way, regardless of whatever disabilities he might be dealing with. And who knows if he's even telling the truth? You're just taking what he's saying at face value and being like, okay, that has to be the truth, right? Or maybe this guy's just a massive piece of crap and he's only saying that so you won't report him. There's a chance because you don't actually know that he is guilt-tripping you with fake information in some kind of effort that you won't say anything, and he can keep up this whole act of being crazy and acting like a piece of garbage. So trust me, if I was in your shoes, I would have not only confronted this guy with a camera right in front of me, but I also would be recording everything and sending it to management every time it happens. Because this behavior is unacceptable. This is your apartment and you live here as well. And just like you and everybody else in the building, he should be expected to abide by the same rules that you do. I feel like I'm a terrible server because I can never keep up with the demands placed on my shoulders. Because after being laughed at by my manager, as well as being ridiculed for not being able to handle everything that was placed in front of me, I feel like I'm now at my breaking point and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so yesterday at my restaurant, we have a seat yourself section. We have around 20 tables that usually seat 4 tops, but can sometimes go up to 6 tops. Usually 3 servers are up there at a time, and well, for some reason, I was left up by myself for over an hour, leaving me to take care of around 18 tables. Now, I clearly was overwhelmed, as unfortunately, I do not have the capability to give good service service to that many tables. I had asked the 2 other servers to help me, and one said they had a party of 10 to take care of, and the other made an excuse to go to lunch. I then asked 2 managers for help because I know my limits and I cannot take 18 tables, but no one helped me out. Now, I was handling it okay until about the halfway mark, but at that point, I got in my head and I started panicking, and then I cried because so much was going wrong. I got so frustrated with myself, and all I could think about was how bad of a server I was. The other server came back from break, saw that I was crying, and started laughing at me, saying that I had a meltdown, and I chose to just ignore him, but I still felt incredibly hurt. I felt humiliated and like a terrible worker, but I finished my last tables as best as I could, and then I went home and I cried it out. Well, today I was in a specific section where they seat you 4 tables at max. However, the section next to mine was empty, so they filled it with 6 tables, which is still doable for me. The kicker is that my section partner got sent home early as well, and the manager gave all of his tables over to me, leaving me with 9 tables in total. And by the way, these people were not happy, all because of this other guy's poor service. I looked at him and I told him that this is getting ridiculous, and he can't keep piling work on me, as the other servers on the floor only had 3 tables each. He then got mad at me and said, "You're right, I wouldn't want you crashing out again like last night. You were too much." And I didn't say anything, but seriously, how embarrassing. How is this fair? I feel like they're setting me up to fail to laugh at me. I'm back home now and I genuinely don't want to go back there, because right now I really don't know what to do. Oh man, yeah, these are awful coworkers, because that's exactly what's happening right now. They're literally trying to set you up for failure, and they just want you to struggle. And by the way, nobody can handle 18 tables at a time. Like literally, you need multiple people for that, and the fact that one person was running all of that, like if that happened to me, I would have walked out and said, okay, I'm gonna find another job, because what you're expecting of me right now is absolutely unacceptable. Not to mention the fact that your manager was laughing at you all because you couldn't handle the service. But then it's like, okay buddy, why don't you get out there and handle 18 tables by yourself? Like that's enough to make anybody crack. I don't care how long you've been serving. So yes, these people are terrible people, and they're actively trying to ruin your life and make you look like an idiot. So in my opinion, I think it's time to find a new and better job, because these people are massive pieces of garbage. Am I the jerk for asking a coworker to pay me back the full amount I paid for our Airbnb after I backed out of our trip to Hawaii at the last second? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so here's the situation. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I met this 20-year-old female at work, and we discovered that we lived in the same town and we know some of our mutual friends. Well, we decided to plan a trip to Hawaii together. We booked the Airbnb months ago for December, and I paid my half, which was about $534. However, about 11 days before the trip, my dad got unexpectedly hospitalized, and I'm currently between jobs after just graduating nursing school. Given everything going on with my dad's health, and the fact that I'm not in the best financial position right now, I decided that I can't go on the trip anymore. I informed her about the situation and explained that I just can't afford to go anymore, and politely asked if she could pay me back the $534 that I already paid for the Airbnb. I know it's last minute, and I acknowledge that it is an inconvenience, but it feels like the right thing for her to reimburse me, especially since she's still going on the trip and staying in the same Airbnb. She responded back by saying that she's only willing to pay me back $267 of the amount that I paid, and that an Airbnb would only give back partial or 75% of the money. Not only is this less than half of what I paid, but as per the Airbnb's cancellation policy, it is free cancellation before December 2nd, and I would even be comfortable with 75% of it, which is $402. And on top of that, she wants to give me that amount after the vacation is over. I told her I was uncomfortable with this arrangement, since I won't even be there, and it seems unfair that I'd be waiting until after the trip to get a partial refund. I've tried to stay understanding, but I feel like she should just pay me the full $534, as she is still going and using the space. So am I wrong for insisting on the full refund, or even just 75% of it? Or is she the one in the right here for offering less? What should I do? No, you're definitely the jerk here. You can't possibly be serious and expecting her to pay you back all that money when you're literally backing out at the last second. I totally get it. Life fell apart and your dad's in the hospital. But this Airbnb was booked months ago. So for you to expect your friend to pony up $500+ just because you're backing out last second, that in my opinion is unacceptable. Like, she was planning on you going to the vacation, and she already booked all of this and was ready to go. And don't get me wrong, it really is sad that you're running into these problems, but this money's already going to the Airbnb owner. Why should your friend have to give up their vacation just because you're not going? So yeah, I do do think you're the jerk for trying to get the full amount, and if I was in your shoes, I would take half when she's ready to pay it, because literally she's getting ready for vacation, and for you to expect her to cough up hundreds of dollars just because you're not going all of a sudden, that in my opinion is incredibly entitled. Am I the jerk for refusing to give my friend the extra money I made when I resold their concert tickets that they didn't want anymore, because they're claiming any profit I should have made outside of their refund should have gone to them because it was their ticket? Here's what happened. Okay, so my best friend and I have been friends ever since we were in preschool. Recently, a popular female singer came to our city and we both wanted to go, so we looked into tickets to buy. She asked if her boyfriend could also come along, which I had absolutely no issue with. So I bought the tickets for the three of us, and they both sent me the money for their tickets. Well, a few days before the show, she was telling me about how her boyfriend really didn't want to go to this concert and how he felt uncomfortable watching a female performer in a leotard. She was telling me how he was not going to interact. No cheering, no clapping, no nothing. And he was refusing to split parking costs at the venue, even though we previously agreed to do so. Well, I told my friend that if he really doesn't want to come, then no one's forcing him. And I didn't mean for it to sound harsh, but if he is that uncomfortable with watching this performer, then why agree in the first place? Eventually, they both decided that they're not coming to the concert any longer. Now, I told them that this is fine, but I would still be going by myself. They then asked for me to send their money back, and I just refused. Whether they chose to go or not, those tickets are already paid for, and if I send them the money back, I just paid for 3 tickets by myself. I told them I would transfer their tickets to them, and if they wanted to resell them to make money back, then they could absolutely do that. They told me they did not want to put in work to try and resell them, which I then offered that I could list them, and if they sell, I will send the money back to them, but if they don't, then they're out of luck. And they eventually agreed to this. Well, I ended up selling the tickets for about $65 more than I paid for them, and I sent them their money that they paid. And with that, everyone was happy and I enjoyed the concert. Well, recently they found out that I actually made about $130 from their 2 tickets, and they said it was unfair that I didn't send them the extra money because they were their tickets, even though they got a full refund of what they initially paid. Well, I told them that I did the work to sell them, so I kept the additional money that I made from selling the tickets. They then called me a jerk, and now our mutual friends are saying I should have sent them all the money that I received. Now, I think it's completely ridiculous, and truthfully, I don't understand the big deal. The event has already passed, and they received their money back. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, honestly, I do not think you're the jerk at all. For starters, the fact that this boyfriend is saying literally a few days before the concert that he doesn't feel comfortable watching a woman perform in a leotard, and also being like, oh, I'm just gonna stand there and not cheer or clap or do anything. Like, first of all, this guy's a complete moron, and honestly, why on earth would you agree to go to this show if you didn't want to have a good time? Like, at least pretend you want to be there for the sake of your girlfriend, because she's going and clearly she's excited to be there. Like, this boyfriend literally just ruined the entire plans all because he didn't want to be there. Now, when it comes to selling the tickets off, you absolutely deserve all the extra money for those tickets sold. If your idiotic friends wanted to make extra money, they could have scalped the tickets and made the extra themselves. But they literally said they don't want to put the work in to resell them, so congratulations, you're not keeping the extra money. Why should you send it to these idiots if they can't even be bothered to sell it themselves? They got their full refund back. They literally got all the money back that they spent on those tickets, and they did that at the convenience of you figuring it out for them. So in my opinion, that $130 rightfully belongs to you, and anybody who says otherwise, in my opinion, is 100% a complete moron. My entitled toxic ex-boyfriend secretly used the flight and hotel that I had paid for that we were going to use to go to Iceland together. So I decided to get some revenge by canceling his return flight home. And now as a result, his entire family has turned against me. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so pretty much, my ex-boyfriend broke up with me a month before moving in, and 3 weeks before an Iceland trip I planned for us, because apparently I was emotionally draining because I was still struggling with some things that he had done to me before we started dating officially. Not to mention the fact that I also got a really scary message from his ex when we started dating, saying that he would love bomb me and then leave me. And you know what? He treated me really great for the first few months of our relationship. He took me to Hawaii, he booked a trip to Japan for us next May, he got me a nice promise ring, he told his family that he would marry me and that they wanted us to get married in December. He even wrote me a card 5 days before breaking up with me about how I was the love of his life and that we were getting married soon and I was his forever and nothing would ever get in our way. Well, after a bad week of breakdowns and anxiety attacks about the past, he called me and broke up with me, yelling at me over the phone as I cried and pleaded how he promised promised to give me as much time as I needed to get over it. I was devastated, but I tried to be understanding, and I reached out to him multiple times to discuss what to do about the trip, as well as to arrange a time to pick up my things. Well, he didn't respond to any of my messages or give me any direct answers, and I didn't know what was going to happen with the trip that we had planned together. Well, without telling me, he decided to go on the trip alone, using the flight and the hotel that I had paid for. I wasn't even given a chance to go, and now I'm left carrying the full cost of what was meant to be a shared experience. I feel hurt and taken advantage of. This trip was supposed to be something we'd experience together, not a solo vacation for him on my dime. Emotionally and financially, this has been incredibly hard for me. It feels like my kindness and generosity were taken advantage of, and I'm left with all the expenses and none of the experience. I told him how he had 24 hours to figure something out with me, and I even reached out to his mom, as we are extremely close, pleading that this has been really hard for me, but in the end, neither of them answered me. Now, everyone told me I should just cancel his return flight, so you know what? That's exactly what I did. I wrote him a huge long message explaining how the situation made me feel, because every other message before that had been me being nice and wanting to work things out, but him going on the trip that I paid for really changed my opinion on the whole ordeal. As a result, his entire family blocked me, plus he blocked me as well, with his little sister even texting me saying that she thinks I'm crazy. So am I the jerk for canceling my ex's return flight after he went on this trip on my dime? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Oh man, this is really sketchy because that guy is a massive loser. First of all, you should have canceled that stuff the second he broke up with you. Like that would have been the first thing I did, because this guy did exactly what his ex said he would do. He pretended to love you for several months, he took you all over the world and professed his love for you, and then he dropped you off with no remorse. And then on top of that, he took this trip overseas without you, basically deciding that he's gonna do this whether you like it or not. Like that's crazy in my opinion, and that is so uncalled for. So no, you're not the jerk in this situation, and the fact that your ex-boyfriend would do this in the first place, in my opinion, is unbelievably toxic. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to hand over my grandmother's jewelry to my cousin, who claims that she's the rightful heir to it, regardless of what my grandmother's will states? Because right now, after telling her no, my family is split down the middle, putting me in a position where honestly, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my grandmother passed away last year, and she left me a beautiful jewelry collection in her will. Growing up, I was very close to her, and we spent countless weekends together where she would let me try on her pieces. It always felt like our little thing. So when she left them to me, I was deeply touched. But this is where things get a little bit more complicated. My cousin, let's call her Emma, insists that my grandmother verbally promised her the collection years ago, even though there's no mention of her in the will. Emma claims that the jewelry is hers by right because she was the oldest grandchild and used to model the pieces during family events when she was younger. She's even told everyone that my grandmother's decision must have been a mistake or made under pressure. Emma called me last week demanding I hand the jewelry over to honor what she says was my grandmother's real wish. When I said no, she called me selfish and accused me of stealing what was meant for her. My family is now divided, with some people saying that I should just give Emma a few pieces to keep the peace, and others telling me to hold my ground because the will was clear. Emma is now posting passive-aggressive messages on social media, making me out to be the villain. I feel terrible because I don't want to cause family drama, but I also believe my grandmother knew exactly what she was doing when she left the collection to me. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, this story is really upsetting for a few reasons, but mostly it's the way that Emma is treating you and tried to make herself out to be the victim in this situation. For starters, no, you're definitely not the jerk. And if I was in your place, I would be holding my ground. Like Emma is never getting a single piece of jewelry as long as I'm alive. And the fact that any family member is like, oh, just give her a few to make her happy, or even implying that you might be the problem in this scenario, in my opinion, is so toxic it's not even funny. These people are literally enabling Emma's awful behavior by being like, oh, come on, if you just give her a few pieces of jewelry, she'll calm down. But it's like, no, Emma's trying to scam you out of something that was left in the will for you specifically. Like this verbal agreement means nothing. It's in writing that this goes to you. And please don't get it twisted. You're not causing any kind of drama. You didn't start this. This is all Emma just stirring up the pot. She's just mad that she didn't get the jewelry that her grandmother had, and now she's taking it out on you as if it's your fault. But here's the facts. The grandma clearly didn't like Emma enough to give it to her, so she gave it to you instead. And from the sounds of it, it has a better home with you than it will ever have with Emma. She would probably sell it off the second she has it and make a quick quick buck. So no, you're not the jerk because in my opinion, Emma sounds incredibly entitled. Today, I got to yell at a customer who was treating my servers like garbage, as she didn't realize that I was the owner of the restaurant that she was eating at. And I've honestly never felt better to snap at someone like that because this was something I don't get to do that often. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm the owner and general manager of this restaurant, and yesterday, a couple came in just before the dinner rush arrived, and the woman of this couple was being difficult from the moment they arrived. They order food, and the woman got upset when they brought it all out at the same time. Apparently, she wanted the soup first, then the basket of fries, and then the other appetizers that they ordered. So it's like, alright, that's not the end of the world. It had gotten busy, so we were able to use the food items to sell other tickets up to that moment. Then, approximately 20 minutes later, I brought out their remade appetizer and fries, and before I even had a chance to set the food down on the table, this woman was irritated. She insisted the food was not hot and had been sitting back there. I assured her that no, it definitely had not, and I watched and instructed the kitchen crew to remake the items so they definitely are very hot. She then stuck her fingers in the food and said, "See, it's not hot. It's warm, but it's not sizzling." I said to her, "Ma'am, I assure you these items were made moments ago for you. They are fresh." She insisted on having them remade, and that's when I completely lost it. I told her if she wanted me to toss this perfectly good food and get another order, then she will be paying for it. She then asked me where I get off thinking that I could speak to her that way, and she said she had a stressful day and was wanting to go out just to eat and relax. I responded by saying, "Well, I'm actually the owner. I don't care how stressful or difficult your day was. It gives you no right to walk in here and be disrespectful to my staff and then me." So we remade the food again, and I dropped it off at the table and she barely ate any of it, but did end up thanking me because it was definitely hot this time. When the poor server swung by to ask how the appetizers were, I guess the woman told her, "Well, my husband is acting like he's embarrassed of me, but he knows I'm right." Anyways, they did pay for all of it like I told them they had to, and their server still got a 20% tip. And at this point, I'm now patiently waiting to see if she leaves a review. But honestly, getting to snap back at someone felt really good, but it's not something I get to do very often. Oh man, when I worked in food service, I wanted to do this so many times, it's not even funny, dude. Like seriously, some people really suck in the restaurant business. Not just people in the kitchen, but some customers are just absolute nightmares. And the Karen in this story is no exception. She literally came in there with a bad attitude and was ready for some kind of argument. I mean, thank God the owner was one of the people that was helping out that day, because you know for a fact she would have asked for the manager or some kind of higher up just to chew them out. So good for you for putting this Karen in her place, because her attitude, in my opinion, was completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk for asking my mom to stop coming over unannounced to the house that I'm renting from her? Because right now it's making me and my new roommate incredibly uncomfortable. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've lived with my mom for most of my life, but last September, she remarried and moved in with her new husband. He lives 45 minutes away from my area, though my mom and her husband recently bought a house just one street away from mine. However, the new house is still under renovation, so it will be a while before they can live there. Well, here's the issue. For the past 2 months, I've had a new roommate who's also a friend of mine, and things have been going great. My roommate is kind and clean and easy to live with, even though she is a bit shy and takes time to warm up to people. But my mom, who owns the house, has been coming over unannounced. She will hang out in the house without letting us know beforehand, and sometimes even stays overnight, up to 2 nights a week, either on the couch or in the spare bedroom. This feels like a massive invasion of our privacy, especially my roommates. I feel awful for her, because where is it normal for a landlord to just live in the place they're renting out? I love having my own space, and this constant intrusion is a big reason why I wanted to move out of my mom's house in the first place. The tricky part is that I'm struggling to bring this up with her. We don't have the best relationship, and communicating with her has always been difficult. She's very much the type of person to say it's either my way or the highway. It also feels like I'd be kicking my own mom out, which makes me feel incredibly guilty. To make things even more complicated, my mom set some strict house rules. No drinking, no smoking, no boyfriends staying over, and no big parties. While I personally don't mind these rules, it's hard to find roommates who are okay with them. If my mom wants to keep renting the place and earning money, she needs to understand that she can't act like a live-in landlord. So would I be the jerk if I told my mom she needs to stop staying over at the house and that she needs to give me and my roommate some privacy? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. Like, this is your place. You're renting it from her. For her to be staying overnight for like 2 days a week, or even like coming into your house unannounced, like that is really sketchy and not okay. She needs to understand that this is your space and you can do with it as you please, as long as you're paying the rent and respecting the property. Now, in my opinion, I think her house rules are really stupid, and it seems like she wants to have some kind of control over your life. The smoking and drinking part part I can kind of understand, especially the smoking part because that can like ruin furniture and make the house smell weird. But not being allowed to have your boyfriend over, like that is so weird. For reference, the original poster is 27 years old. They're hardly a teenager and they're definitely not a kid anymore. So that rule just doesn't make any sense, and honestly, it just seems really out of line. So no, you would not be the jerk for having this conversation, because what she's doing right now, especially when you consider your new roommate, in my opinion, is incredibly inappropriate. My boyfriend's female best friend continues to create tension in our relationship, and after trying to talk to him about this so many different times, I now feel completely lost, as right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I've been dating my boyfriend for less than a year, and we're currently expecting our first child together. Since early on in our relationship, I've had concerns about his female best friend. I've expressed my discomfort with her multiple times, but he often dismisses or downplays my feelings. At the start of our relationship, I noticed that she would text him and call him at all hours. When I brought it up, it seemed like their communication decreased, but I can still tell that they're in contact. I've told him that I feel like she's not respectful of our relationship. The last time I had an interaction with her, she spent the whole night trying to be by his side, even going as far as touching his arm right in front of me. When he told her that I was pregnant, her immediate reaction was to question if the child was even his. And she's also aware that I know this, but she's never apologized. She continues to seek him out and make plans with him, despite knowing that I don't like her. Recently, my boyfriend mentioned that he's planning something for his birthday, and he wants her to be there. Now, I haven't seen her in months, and I'm worried about keeping my composure if she's there. He told me that she's scared of me and thinks I might try to physically confront her, so it's clear that she knows I don't like her. I've made it clear that she's not invited to the baby shower, but it seems like he's unwilling to exclude her from his birthday celebration. Now, for additional context, they've been friends for about 3 years. When they first met, he had a crush on her, but he claims it's always been platonic between them, and has made remarks basically saying that it wouldn't work out because she is too dramatic in his eyes. He also acknowledged that the previous partner before me didn't like her either, and I'm unsure of what her reasons were, but I can only imagine that she lacked similar boundaries back then as well. So I'm honestly unsure how to handle this. I don't want to make a scene in front of his family, but I also don't know how I'll be able to stay calm. I don't want to give her the satisfaction of skipping his birthday, but honestly, she feels like a third wheel in our relationship. What should I do? Oh man, your boyfriend is absolutely at fault here. This guy is keeping this lady around for some stupid reason, and it's obviously creating tension in your relationship, but it also created tension in his previous relationship. Like seriously, what is this guy's problem? There's a difference between having a friend and someone who is actively antagonistic towards your girlfriend. Like he does know he's about to be a father, right? Like he literally is having a kid with you, and this other lady is like, oh, is that even your kid in the first place? Like what is going on right now? This is so weird to me, because right now it really seems like having this lady as a friend is way more important to this guy than your feelings about this. Like he truly is the problem here, and it honestly is so unfair. So truly, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this, and hopefully all this gets worked out, because you do not deserve this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for doing things behind my folks' back as I'm trying to save up and get my life in order so that I can eventually move out of their house? Here's what happened. So I'm a woman in my mid-20s, and I'm currently living with my folks. We'll call them Sarah and George. They are in their mid to late 60s, and they took me in when I was a baby due to my mother, their daughter, having issues at the time. When I was younger, my folks were overprotective of me due to my mother having run away from home a few times and being a wild girl by going to parties, drinking, and all the other cliche rebellious stuff. They were afraid that I would do the same, but I wasn't bothered by this. The paranoia over me going to other people's houses did get bothersome at times, but it was fine. Then I started developing my own interests and beliefs, and they were not supportive, as they would commonly tell me to be in the real world, and then when I'd make friends, they would judge them like crazy. I couldn't have ambitions, wanting to one day be a police officer or an artist, anything of that sort. I would hear it all the time where they would say, you've got to be realistic. They still see me as a child, and it took them far too long to allow me to do anything. So I just started doing things without telling them to not result in conflict. They also have emotionally mistreated me, I think. They insult the way that I laugh, with my weight always being an issue for them, and my preference in clothing. They commonly shout at me for the most petty things, and I still flinch when I hear my name called by somebody. I pay to live in their house, and Sarah has been telling me I'll be staying with them indefinitely, basically saying that I'll get the house someday. Now, I was fine with that at first, so I didn't pay much mind for saving my money, but her attitude got worse though, starting when I was reorganizing my bedroom and locking my door for privacy. She would also get so angry if I took time off of work. I've even slept in my own car in a grocery store parking lot when I took approved time off of work just so I didn't have to wake up to Sarah storming in and shouting at me. I am really scared of her, I hate to say it, but then I finally made the decision to start doing things for my health. I went to the doctor without telling Sarah or George, and I got a prescription that's been incredible for my health as of late. Then I went to the bank and I opened up a new account that only I can access. I've also been packing away my unnecessary items like merchandise from games and shows that I like, and I've been looking for houses to learn what I'll need to be prepared for in the future. But overall, am I the jerk for doing all of these things in secret? I am terrified of how they will react when they find out. Inevitably, they'll know I'm moving when it happens, and Sarah probably will attempt to guilt trip me into staying with them. They might have a hard time without me around anymore, and they'll have no trust in me when they uncover the truth. What should I do? No, there is no reason for you to feel guilty about this, and I definitely do not think that you're the jerk here. You're trying to move on with your life. You're in your 20s and you don't want your family treating you like a child anymore. And the fact that you didn't even have your own bank account until recently, like that is really alarming, and I don't blame you for trying to save up and get out of there. So no, you're not the jerk for trying to make this step in your life, because this is a normal step to make. And if Sarah and George have a problem with that, then they quite literally are just gonna have to live with it. Am I the jerk for excluding my dad from my wedding after he decided to ghost me after he found out I got engaged? Because right now I'm really confused and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of backstory, 2.5 years ago, my older sister got into a really bad marriage, and it included all the horrible things that you can imagine. My dad was very supportive of the marriage and paid for almost everything for her. He picked her up on the wedding day, walked her down the aisle, and gave them a cute little speech. But they ended up getting divorced 6 months later. Well, I just got engaged to my now fiance after a 5-year relationship and a surprise baby, resulting now in a 4-year-old boy. Yep, you read that right. We have had our ups and downs, but we have reached the point of our relationship where everything seems right. Sure, we still have the occasional fight, but nothing serious ever. Maybe he left a trash can somewhere or forgot to load the dishwasher or something stupid. We are really solid, and everyone around us were just waiting for the news of our engagement. We have been calling each other wifey and hubby for years, so this change comes naturally to us. Before the proposal, my fiance had contacted my dad and told him that he would be asking me to marry him. Well, my dad had no comments and just ignored the entire thing. So my fiance contacted my mother instead and got her blessing. He then proposed on a family vacation with his entire family watching, and it really was a special moment. And I, of course, was overjoyed and wanted to share the news to my family immediately. So I texted them all, and again, there was no response from my dad, and that really hurt my feelings. Now, this was almost 3 months ago, and we just started planning our wedding. My sister talked me into going to my dad's house for dinner one night, and I agreed, and not one of them commented on the engagement, the ring, the wedding, how we were doing, or anything like that. In fact, my dad barely looked at me. So I decided to leave early, and once again, I was hurt. And for the first time ever, I didn't hug my dad when I left his house. So a couple days ago, I texted him to let him know that we started planning the wedding and what date, time, and place it was going to be at, and that I, of course, wanted them all to be there. And sure, this was an informal invitation, since they would be getting an actual invitation soon, but again, I got no response. So now, with all things considered, I decided that I don't want him to be a part of my wedding at all. He can be there as a guest, but he will not be asked to do any of the fatherly duties. Well, my family is freaking out about this decision and says I'm overreacting and that I need to give him time. My father-in-law will pick me up on the wedding day and drive me to the church, and he will be the one to walk me down the aisle. And he even promised to give a toast after I talked to him about my dad, because right now I feel betrayed, and I feel like there's a chance he might not show up at all, and I have no clue why. Also, why would he support my sister in her bad marriage and then just completely ignore me? Am I overthinking or overreacting? Should I really just give him time to come around? All of the comments from my family have gotten in my head, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all for not wanting your dad to be a part of your wedding. He's clearly giving you the silent treatment, and in my opinion, that speaks volumes to anything he could say or do. He's showing that he doesn't care about you and your wedding, and he's making it obvious that this is not a priority for him, and he's not going to have anything to do with it. So truly, I don't blame you. Like, this sounds like some really immature response to something that you literally have not even done. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, because the way your dad is acting, in my opinion, is completely irrational. I found out that my wife has been cheating on me with an ex-boyfriend from high school, so I decided to get some revenge by not only divorcing my wife on the spot, but also by completely ruining her cheating affair partner's life altogether by exposing him for the cheater that he is, resulting in him getting a divorce, losing his job, and getting evicted. Here's what happened. So way back in the early 2000s, I began to suspect that my wife was up to something. Our two kids were about 4 and 6 years old, so they were still young, but not so young that they couldn't tell you something about what had happened during the day. Well, they started talking a lot about staying with my wife's parents during the day, which wasn't really that strange in and of itself. But since they lived about 90 minutes away, doing so 2 or 3 times a week seemed a bit much, which is, by the way, basically every day that she wasn't working her part-time job. When I asked her about it, she denied it, but she really was never a good liar. So I started tracking the mileage on her car, and sure enough, she was driving an extra 400 miles or so per week. So it's right then that I knew that something was up. Then one day I sat down at the computer, and she had left a sticky note with her AOL password written on it next to the keyboard. Now I could not resist, and I went ahead and logged in to read her emails, and I saw a few email exchanges between her and her college best friend where they discussed how my wife was regularly spending time with one of her ex-boyfriends from high school. And by spending time, I think you know what I mean. There were no mentions of details about him, other than my wife also talking garbage about his wife and making fun of how she'd gotten so fat after having kids. So I printed out these email exchanges and I stashed them away. I still needed to know the details, so I called a friend who was a cop, and he suggested I call a guy that he knew that had left the force to become a private investigator, who we will call Ron. Now Ron was great. I paid his retainer and gave him the emails and what little I knew about my wife's activities, and he figured out exactly what she was doing. His report detailed with photos and times, dates, locations, saying everything about how she would take the kids to her parents' house and then go meet this guy for lunch. Then they'd go to a dumpy hotel for a few hours, after which she would pick up the kids and return home. Well, at this point, I hired a divorce lawyer. My parents cheated on each other, and the fallout absolutely messed up mine and my siblings' childhood. It was something that was totally unacceptable. I also asked Ron to find out what he could about this guy, and Ron absolutely came through. He learned this guy's name, who we will call Bob, and that he was married and had 3 children. I also found out that he worked as a vice president of sales for his father-in-law's business. Now, at this point, I had my lawyer draw up the divorce papers. I also asked Ron for a couple more copies of his report, as well as one more thing I wanted him to do. On the same day, I had my wife serve with the divorce papers at her work, and I had Ron meet with the guy's wife and show her everything that he'd found out. She seemed nice, and I figured that she deserved to know what her dear husband was up to, because what she did with that information was up to her from here on out. While the information about my wife's infidelity didn't really matter in my divorce proceedings, Bob's wife did a real number on him. According to the publicly available court documents from the divorce and other related proceedings, she cleaned out their joint account, took the kids, and then she left. And as soon as her dad found out what he had done, Bob was fired. And since her parents actually owned the house where Bob and his wife lived, he also got evicted. Their divorce was really ugly. Lots of fighting in and eventually out of court, and I guess Bob went to the house and started arguing with his wife, and it escalated to the point where her brother stepped in and Bob got his nose broken. There were restraining orders, a couple more incidents with police reports, as well as criminal charges, jail time, and so on. I can't find Bob on the internet anywhere these days, and last I heard, he'd left the state and his ex-wife did okay. She went to work at her dad's company and took over after he retired. When it comes to me, my ex and I get along well enough. I didn't engage with her on anything that wasn't related to the kids, and now that they're both adults, I don't talk to her at all anymore. I don't hate her or anything like that, but I only care in the context that she is my kid's mom, and while she is important to them, trust me when I say this, to me, she is absolutely nothing beyond that. Okay, I love this story for a few reasons, but the biggest one is the fact that this really did work out in the original poster's favor, because they documented everything perfectly. Now, normally I wouldn't be the kind of person to be like, oh yeah, let me go through some emails, but he was obviously noting that his wife was acting weird, so he had to get some kind of evidence to kind of back up his claims. From the private investigator to him printing off the emails just in case she tried to delete them, like all of this is so smart and so well done. And I just love the fact that he went after the guy that his wife was cheating with. Like that is absolutely brilliant because that guy's wife absolutely deserved to know. So truly, good job for getting revenge on this guy and taking him down completely, because he, along with your former wife, absolutely ruined so much in this family, and that, in my opinion, absolutely deserves to be punished. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled manager demands that I work faster, stating that my accuracy on the job doesn't matter, and that she only cares that I get it done in a timely manner. So I decide to maliciously comply, resulting in the store nearly going under from missing sales, as well as my manager needing to answer for her crimes. Here's what happened. So I work in a big retail chain where the stockroom is the Wild West and chaos is the norm. We recently got a new supervisor who we will call Sarah, who seems to think she's running the Navy SEALs or something like that. She is obsessed with speed, constantly on us about how we need to get things done faster and that it doesn't matter if it's right as long as it's done fast. So one day during peak restock time, when we're drowning in boxes, Sarah storms in with her clipboard and her best I'm in charge face. She corners me while I'm halfway through a massive inventory check and says to me, "You're taking way too long with these. Just get through them quickly. We don't have time to check every single item." I then tried to explain that rushing inventory checks is a bad idea, but she cuts me off with a condescending smile. "If you can't speed this up, maybe this job just isn't right for you." And she says this all smug like she dropped a bombshell. Well, alright Sarah, you want speed? Let's see how fast things can spiral out of control. So I take her words to heart and I decide to follow her instructions exactly. The next day I'm scheduled for another inventory check, and instead of my usual process where I count everything carefully, I decide to play Sarah's game. I glance at the shelves and make up numbers that seem about right. I don't even bother opening boxes to check if what's inside matches the labels. I fly through the whole process, marking items off like I'm speedrunning a video game. What usually takes me 2 hours, I finish in about 20 minutes. Sarah sees me finish up, and I can see her eyes light up. She walks over, grinning ear to ear. "See, that wasn't so hard, was it? If you keep this up, you might even get a little bonus this month." And she says this, patting herself on the back for her brilliant leadership skills. Fast forward a week, and the store manager, who we will call Mike, calls for an emergency meeting. The inventory reports have come back, and they were a total disaster. According to the report, we're missing thousands of dollars worth of products. It looks like we either lost half the stock, or we're running some underground black market. Mike is pissed, customers are complaining about out-of-stock items, and the regional manager is breathing down his neck. Mike turns to Sarah and asks her to explain how this could have happened. Now Sarah, trying to save face, immediately points at my team and says, "They must have messed up the counts. They weren't thorough enough." She's literally throwing us under the bus without a second thought. And this is where I decided to strike. I raise my hand and I say to him, "Actually, I did exactly what Sarah told us to do. She said to skip checking the items and just get it done as quickly as possible. I was just following orders." When I said this, you could hear a pin drop. Mike slowly turns to Sarah, his expression going from confused to furious. He then asked her, "Is this true?" And his eyes were narrowing at her. At this point, Sarah starts stammering, trying to backtrack. "Well, I didn't mean to skip it entirely. I just meant to speed it up." But you know what? It was too late. The damage is done. Mike is already fuming. He then goes on to say, "So you decided to cut corners on the one thing that affects our bottom line? You do realize we have to do a full recount because of this mess, right?" And you know what? That's exactly what happens. The next day, Sarah and a few unlucky team members spend 12 hours redoing the entire inventory check from scratch. The rest of us get to enjoy watching them sweat it out while we handle our regular duties. And trust me, it was glorious. As they're counting, I make sure to walk by every so often and ask them, "Need any help speeding things up? I could skip a few checks for you if that helps." Well, the look on Sarah's face every time is pure rage mixed with embarrassment. She can't say anything because she knows I'm just doing what she asked for. By the end of it, we have found thousands of dollars in discrepancies. It turns out, rushing through inventory checks leaves a lot of room for errors. I mean, who knew? The regional manager isn't happy, and Sarah ends up getting a formal warning. She stops harping on us about speed after that, and even tries to be extra nice whenever I'm around. So I guess she realized that maybe, just maybe, some jobs shouldn't be rushed. Now the best part about this is that a couple of weeks later, I get a small bonus for outstanding attention to detail and helping fix the inventory mess. And trust me, the irony is not missed on me. And Sarah couldn't even look me in the eye when I got the bonus slip. And now every time she walks by me, I just give her a friendly smile and I say to her, "Don't worry, boss. I'm working as fast as you want." And honestly, it feels good every single time I do it. Wow, how in the world did Sarah keep her job? Like seriously, how did she keep her job after messing up that badly? Not only is she incredibly condescending and very rude, but she also was talking down to you and the rest of the employees while also literally almost tanking the entire store. What in the world was she thinking, not allowing you to check through the inventory properly? That is a dumb decision, and honestly, she should have been fired right there on the spot. But you know what? Good for you for speaking up and not allowing Sarah to throw you under the bus, because that's exactly what this lady was planning on doing. Am I the jerk for refusing to share a table in a crowded coffee shop with another patron all because she smelled really badly? Because right now, after recounting this story to my friends, they're all saying that I'm actually the jerk here. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 22-year-old female and I was studying at a popular coffee shop in my town yesterday afternoon. It was crowded, but I was lucky enough to get a 2-person table with an outlet. I stayed there for maybe 3 hours, and I ordered multiple items throughout my stay. Well, about an hour into my stay, a girl about my age smelled really badly of the herb, if you know what I mean, and she asked if she could share my table so that she could study as well. I looked around and every other chair was occupied, and there were even people standing beside the tables. I absolutely despise the smell of the herb. It's legal in my state, so there's no issue there, but it makes me nauseous and it gives me a headache. So I knew there was no way I could get anything done with that girl across from me. So without mentioning her smell, I told her no and that I needed my personal space. Now, instead of walking away, she pressed and said if I wanted my personal space, then I shouldn't be studying in the most popular coffee shop in town. I then told her that I specifically didn't want her at my table because she smelled like an herb farm and she should take a shower before she tries to infringe on a stranger's personal space. Now, I thought she would go away after that, but she told me she was sitting at my table whether I liked it or not, and she even put her things down thinking maybe I would leave. Well, instead, I flagged down an employee and I explained the situation, and thankfully she sided with me and asked the girl to leave, even saying she would call security if she didn't do so. I resumed my work, but I felt a bit shaken by the situation. Later that evening, I recalled what happened to some of my friends, and I thought they would agree that she was being a jerk, but to my surprise, a couple of my friends told me that I was the unreasonable one. One of them is familiar with a coffee shop and told me that it was rude of me to hog a table, even though I bought 2 drinks and a pastry throughout my stay, and that if I really had a problem with someone smelling bad, I should have just left. Another one of my friends said that my comment about how that person smelled was out of line, and even if someone is being rude, I shouldn't talk like that to a stranger. This then sparked a huge debate until I agreed to post this online to settle this once and for all. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. This lady could have smelled like anything. She could have had really bad body odor. She could have been wearing the worst smelling perfume on planet Earth. She could have smelled like wet dog. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. It's the fact that this lady smelled bad and not just because she was smoking the herb that really is the crux of this conversation. So with that in mind, of course you're not the jerk. This lady smelled bad. Who in their right mind would want to sit next to someone like that? Especially if they're gonna have that kind of attitude. So not only do I think your friends are completely wrong, but they're also siding with the wrong person. Like, you're not the one who walked up to the table and said, I'm gonna sit here whether you like it or not. I don't care if I smell bad. Instead, you were the one who was sitting there for 3 hours, literally minding your own business, and then the stinky hippie walked up and tried to be like, I'm going to impose on your space because I deserve to be here. So no, you're not the jerk here because the way that lady was acting was completely out of line. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not attending my sister's wedding, all because of her wedding tax she's imposing on the family? Because after getting into a huge fight, I'm now considering not showing up after she gave me the ultimatum that either I chip into the wedding or I don't even bother showing up. Here's what happened. Okay, so here's a bit of backstory. My younger sister, who we will call Emily, is getting married in a couple of months, and while I'm super happy for her, there's been some drama over the whole wedding planning process. Emily and her fiance decided to have a small wedding, which I totally understand, but they also decided to impose a wedding tax on family members attending. They have a list of wedding expenses, things like venue decor and catering, and they expect each family member to contribute extra to make it all happen. To top it all off, her fiance's family is also chipping in, making the whole thing feel less like a celebration and more like a business deal. When my sister brought this up, I couldn't help but voice my concern. I told her that it felt unfair to ask family to cover the cost on top of giving a gift. I suggested maybe doing a more budget-friendly wedding so that everyone could enjoy it, but she just brushed aside my suggestions. We then had a huge argument about it, and it turned into a shouting match. I told her that weddings should be about love, not financial burdens. In the weeks that followed, she refused to speak to me and even blocked my number for a while. I felt really hurt, but then I received an invitation to the wedding, complete with a note saying that if I wasn't chipping in, then I shouldn't even bother showing up. So I've been debating whether or not to go. On one hand, I want to support my sister, but on the other hand, I feel like it's really messed up to so blatantly ask for cash from family. My parents think that I should just suck it up, contribute, and attend for the sake of the family. Meanwhile, my friends are telling me that I'd be better off skipping it altogether. So am I the jerk for considering not going to my sister's wedding, all because of the wedding tax? Am I being the jerk for standing my ground on what I believe should be a joyful occasion and not some kind of financial obligation? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk. This really does seem like an unfair thing for people to have to cover themselves. things. Like if they want to have an expensive wedding, then congratulations, you can pay for it. Why should I have to be expected to have some kind of wedding tax, all because you're going over budget and you can't afford it? Because at that point, if I'm literally helping fund this wedding, then I better have a say in what kind of food's being served and how the venue's gonna look. And chances are you were probably already gonna give like some kind of wedding gift. So for her to be like, oh, there's a wedding tax on top of that. If you want to show up, you better chip into the wedding. Like that is really weird and in my opinion, completely inappropriate. So no, you're not the jerk here because the way your sister's acting, in my opinion, is incredibly entitled. My idiotic manager demands that I don't give my input anymore no matter what, claiming that it's either his way or the highway, and that if he wants my input, then he will ask for it. So when I decide to maliciously comply, things go so bad that the company ends up losing thousands of dollars on merchandise over an incident that would have been preventable if they would just listen to me in the first place. Here's what happened. So a few months ago, a new business investor at work came on board as a manager, and he has been an absolute nightmare. He is cracking down on anything he considers to be a waste of time, and he is incredibly unforgiving. After a week of watching us work, he and the other managers held a company-wide meeting to apparently iron out some wrinkles in the company that he observed since he started. It wasn't an open dialogue though. In fact, that's one of the things he wanted to wrinkle out. It was essentially just 20 minutes of him saying, it's our way or the highway, just deal with it. The line of him saying, if we want your input, we'll ask for it, period, really stuck with me though. And it was made abundantly clear afterwards that it was directed at me. The company has had a problem recently with employee turnover, and I was in the position to know why, since I interact with everyone through my role. Essentially, people are quitting because the work they were doing wasn't what they signed up to do. The phrase, if I knew this was what I would be doing, I wouldn't have accepted the job, was a common sentiment. They accepted the job under the impression that they would be serving customers, answering emails and phone calls, you know, general customer service stuff, but instead they spend about 90% of their time in a hot warehouse packing online orders over and over again. I shared that with management, and I let them know what the people leaving were saying, in case they wanted to take that into account moving forward. Well, they just thanked me and then I left, but the new manager hated that so much that he decided to make a meeting about giving them advice that they don't want. They spoke with me privately afterwards and referred back to when I told them about what the quitting employee said, and they told me that the way they interpreted that was that I was implying that they were being deceitful when hiring people. I told them no, I don't think that at all. I was just relaying what those people were saying about how they felt, but they didn't care. They doubled down and said again, if we want your input, we will ask for it, period. So that's how I knew it was directed at me. I asked them for clarification, like what constitutes advice or input, and the new boss said to me, unless you were asking a question about the work you're supposed to be doing, we don't want to hear it. We don't want your opinion on how you think that we should handle situations. We don't want your ideas on how you think the business can be run better. And we don't want gossip about what other people are saying about us. Just focus on your job. So you know what? Fine then. I will absolutely roll with that, no problem. I've worked for them for years, and they have always appreciated my ideas, opinions, and input all the way up until that point. But hey, if they don't want my input anymore, that's their choice, and I will respect that. I knew it was just the new boss saying that stuff, since this sort of attitude with them only started when he did, but the others either agree with him or were too intimidated to disagree. But either way, whatever. I will comply with their request. Since then, the problem hasn't been fixed. We've had 2 more people come and go, with both of them saying they're working stuff they didn't sign up for. A third one started about 5 weeks ago, and he has taken his frustration in a different direction. I've overheard him complaining over and over again to other people about how he didn't sign up to stand around in a hot warehouse for hours, and that he doesn't want to pack online orders. But instead of quitting like everybody else, he just got angrier and angrier, and then he hulked out. I was upstairs at my desk when I started hearing smashing. I went down to the warehouse to see what was going on, and this guy was taking customer packages and smashing them out of frustration. A few others in the warehouse gathered around and just watched in amusement. I mean, this was like something out of a cartoon. The new boss heard the commotion and came down, and long story short, the guy was fired, and I was asked if I knew why he flipped out. I said to him, well, I don't know what happened exactly to cause him to freak out, but I know that for weeks he's been complaining about not signing up to work in a hot warehouse for hours. Maybe he just reached his tipping point about it, I'm not really sure. He then said to me, well, why didn't you tell us? So, of course, I said to them exactly how I felt. Well, because last time I told you that employees were complaining about that, and you accused me of implying that you were being deceitful when hiring them. Then you told me to stop gossiping. Well, this guy had to eat crow for a bit on that, which was so absolutely delicious to witness. But I was also reprimanded for taking the request too literally, and he accused me of being petty. But it's like, whatever, I don't really care, because I had to adjust the stock levels for the goods that had to be replaced, and they ended up losing about $10,000 in that guy's rampage. And some of the items that were smashed were worth about $2,000 each. And sure, perhaps enjoying that does make me just a little bit petty, but learning that it cost this much really made this entire experience very worthwhile. Wow, it's crazy to me that managers can be this dense, and they don't seem to understand that yes, they need input from lower managers. Like the original poster knew exactly why people were getting pissed off and quitting, and instead of listening to them and being like, oh wow, we need to like switch up how we're doing things, they decided to reprimand the original poster and basically let this simmer in the background while nothing gets done about it. And that's honestly not fair for anybody involved in that company. So honestly, I love this petty revenge because the manager in this story absolutely deserved it. My crazy psycho aunt allows her son to rob me blind by literally stealing thousands of dollars worth of Pokemon cards, merchandise, and equipment, while also taking my entire manga collection. And after confronting her and demanding that she give it back to me, she claimed that there was nothing I could do about it and that I would never get my property back. So I decided to escalate things, resulting in my aunt getting arrested. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Okay, so basically, I am a very huge fan of the Pokemon franchise and the anime and manga. I play the games, I play Pokemon Go, I collect the cards and watch the anime, and my collection of cards and my Pokemon Go account both are like decent for someone who doesn't spend that much money on them. I also have an entire collection of mangas, like Attack on Titan and One Piece and stuff like that. Well, my spoiled cousin came over yesterday to my mom's house where I live, and I was outside in the park playing Pokemon Go, and when I arrived home, he was watching TV on the couch. While I was out playing Pokemon Go, I went to a card shop and I bought a booster box of Scarlet and Violet base set. And for reference, a booster box is basically a package that has a lot of Pokemon card packs, and the odds of pulling a rare card are increased in a booster box. Now, my cousin is very jealous of me because of my collection, but honestly, I just ignore him, since if I didn't, he would annoy me like crazy. I opened the booster box, I sorted the cards, and I added them to my collection. After a few hours of me playing Pokemon Scarlet, my cousin came into my room and just sat there. Well, it was getting time for me to go to a hangout to one of my friends' houses, and after a few hours of that, I came back home at about 7 o'clock, I went into my room, and to my absolute shock, all the binders of my cards were gone. My Nintendo Switch was gone with all of its games, and my entire manga collection, with my Crunchyroll account being taken as well, because he changed the password on it. Well, I quickly called my mom, who at the time went to go shopping, and my cousin didn't want to go, so she left him here alone. I informed my mom on what happened over the call, because she was still out shopping, so then I called my aunt since my cousin was also not there, and she told me that she had come pick him up, and that he's gonna borrow my stuff for a while. She said to me, he wanted your thing, so I allowed it because he's just a child. Now at this point, I completely freaked out. I also checked up on my Pokemon Go account, and guess what I see? My password was changed, so probably he also gets the details from my tablet, since I also keep Pokemon Go on there in case my phone is not cooperating and just keeps crashing. My card collection is valued over 6 figures in US dollars. The Nintendo Switch and all the games cost well over $1,000, and my Pokemon Go account is probably worth about 860 US dollars, with my entire manga collection being well over $4,000. I said I was gonna call the cops if all my stuff wasn't returned, and my aunt said to me, go ahead and call them. I will just lie and tell them that your cousin owns all of this. So that's exactly what I did. And after I called the cops and showed security camera footage of them stealing all my stuff, the cops quickly reviewed the footage and went and arrested my aunt, since she was the only one old enough to arrest, as my cousin was left in the house. I currently don't know what else is happening, but I will provide updates as they come along, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, this is crazy! Your aunt is not only a piece of garbage, but the fact that she would allow this to happen in the first place is insane in my opinion. Here's the thing, I really do believe the original poster here, because some of these Pokemon cards can be very expensive. Just look up some of the prices on these cards, especially if they have a collection of older vintage sets. Like, I can really believe the fact that they've sunk thousands of dollars into this. Like, this really is not a cheap hobby. This really does have some serious money behind it. So the fact that your aunt allowed their kid to basically rob you blind and steal all your accounts and your equipment, like, that is crazy. That is absolutely insane. So seriously, I really hope this all gets worked out for you, because the way you're being treated right now is absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk tries to leave his motorcycle motorcycle in the middle of our gas pumps, claiming that this would be the perfect spot for him to park his bike while he grabbed some groceries across the street. And I'm honestly still stunned by this guy's idiotic behavior, and I really hope I don't have to deal with him ever again. Here's what happened. I had a customer come in earlier on a motorcycle where they got some snacks and some gas, and honestly, we didn't really have any issues, and they really started off as a friendly guy. Well, as he was paying, he looked back out the window at his motorcycle, still parked at the pump, and started telling me that that should be a good enough spot for him to leave his bike, as he's got to grab some things from the grocery store next door. Now, obviously, you guys know why that's a bad thing to do. It's common sense not to do it. So I was kind of surprised I even had to explain to the guy that no, you can't leave your motorcycle parked at the gas pumps while you go shopping in another store. Well, you would think I was trying to explain astrophysics to him for how confused he was by that. I did point out that he's welcome to bring his bike to park at the side of the building or in any of the parking spots at the grocery store's parking lot. I mean, it is literally next door. We share parking spaces, and it's not going to be any more effort for him to take his bike over there than it is to walk to the store. Well, this guy started saying, "How dare you tell me what I can't do?" And he was super aggressive about this. He was literally trying to argue that he was just going to grab a few things so it would be quick. It's just a motorcycle. It's not taking up that much space. But it's like, my guy, that's not the issue. You can't park at the pumps and then dip out because then customers who need it can't use the gas pumps. I don't think he ever understood why he can't just park and bail, because that requires thinking about something other than yourself. But eventually, he just begrudgingly said that he would take his bike over to the grocery store, which apparently was like the biggest inconvenience in the world. And I'm honestly still shocked by this guy's stupidity. Yeah, that guy really is incredibly stupid. Seriously, you can't just block a gas pump and be like, "Oh, this is fine, right? I'm just gonna be gone for like a few seconds." And the fact that you guys share the same parking spaces as a grocery store, like, that is so weird to me, and honestly, there's no excuse for that. That guy was just being super lazy, and honestly, the fact that you shut that down and got him out of there, in my opinion, was the best thing you could have done in this situation. Am I overreacting for the way my brother and his wife treated my family at his wedding ceremony? Because right now, I'm still incredibly upset and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my brother and I are very close. He's a best friend to me and we talk almost every day. Unfortunately, his wife and I don't always see eye to eye. In fact, we both have young children around the same age. He calls me one night and asks me to take him to the hospital because he threw out his back. On the car ride there, I told him that he needs to take better care of himself since he's a father now and that his girls need him. Mind you, this isn't the first time I've taken him to the ER for this same issue. It's also midnight and I had to wait for him to get treated and eventually dropped him back off at home at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was a bit annoyed and I told him that I couldn't keep doing this for him because I have work and kids of my own now. Well, I come to find out later, he went home and tells his wife all of this and they both get upset with me. They were legally married but never had a wedding ceremony. There had been talks about having one, but they never followed through with it. Well, they decided to plan one within 2 weeks of this incident. It was a last-minute backyard wedding. The food was potluck style, and they didn't even have lights, so it was done mostly in the dark. He invites me and the family to the wedding as guests, and when the ceremony begins, I find out that his best man is our aunt's husband, who he isn't even close with. And I was stunned because he didn't pick me, even though he was my best man. His groomsmen are friends and family, and his ring bearer is our 19-year-old cousin instead of my 3-year-old or my 5-year-old son. He then proceeds to give a speech and thank every single person who attended, going as far as to mention all of their names, and there were about 20 people, but obviously leaves my family out of it. I was so upset that I told my wife we were leaving, and I dragged the family out. I called him a couple days later, and he acted like everything was fine. I told him what he did upset me, and that's when he told me what happened the night after the ER. He said that he felt like I was telling him how to live his life, and that me telling him to do it for his children was me calling him a bad father. I asked him where he got all this from, and he said he told his wife what I said, and that's what she assumed I was saying, which honestly doesn't surprise me. I told him unless he wants to apologize to me, there's no reason for us to speak any further, and then I just hung up on him. Well, fast forward 6 months later, and I wake up to 8 missed calls from his wife. Well, I just ignore it, and then I receive a paragraph text explaining to me that they are having marital problems, and that she is afraid of losing him. She then asked me to speak with him to try and save their marriage. Now, I just left her on red, but my wife is telling me that I'm overreacting and that I should help them. Now, I honestly don't think it's my problem, but am I the one overreacting in this situation? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh no, you are definitely not overreacting. Your brother's wife sabotaged his relationship with you. She literally made up some scheme like, "Oh yeah, he's saying you're a bad father." And then because of that, you get completely completely ignored at this stupid wedding ceremony. Like, that is so unfair for you, it's not even funny. And honestly, what does this lady think you're gonna do when it comes to her marriage? Like, how is this your business at all? So truly, you didn't do anything wrong, and if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be staying out of this. Like, you do not have a dog in this fight, and I can only see this becoming a lot worse if you did get involved. So no, you're definitely not overreacting from this, because the way they treated you was incredibly unkind. Am I the jerk for calling out my grandparents for all the stuff they said to my mom in front of their friends and extended family? Because after they got exposed, they're now saying that I'm incredibly disrespectful for calling them out. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old female, and my parents and I spent Saturday with my dad's family. So when my mom went missing in action for a bit longer than usual, I went looking for her and I found her upset. She said nothing was wrong, but an hour later, I heard my grandparents call her a bad mom, and I stopped and admittedly, I eavesdropped on what they were saying. They were saying that my mom should be ashamed for crying where I could see her. And how did my dad ever let her raise me with him when she abandoned me when I was a baby for weeks and didn't even care about me back then? They said that my mom was a lunatic and should be ashamed of herself for ruining my family. Now for context, my mom had postpartum psychosis after I was born. She got really sick and spent 11 weeks in a hospital and in a treatment center to try and help her because she was really at risk. My dad tried to get her help, but a lot of people dismissed him. I was maybe 8 or 9 weeks old before someone took him seriously and finally helped him with mom and got her the help that she needed. The experience left them both incredibly shaken, and it took my mom a long time to fully recover. But when she had, they were afraid to risk more kids, and so they decided that they were one and done with me. Now, I've always been aware of this, so hearing my grandparents speak to my mom like that was awful. Mom finally left them while I was still eavesdropping, and she pulled away and said it was okay. A while later, a group of us were in the kitchen eating, and my grandparents were making comments about how lucky some people were to have a lot of grandkids and how much it helps when each kid has more than one. Well, my dad was like, wait a second, what's going on? But that's when I snapped and I brought up how awful they were to make more digs at my mom. I called them out on it. I said it was disgusting and mom didn't deserve the crap they said. My grandparents told me that I didn't understand and I know they love me, but I said they sure didn't talk like that. I said calling my mom a lunatic and rubbing it in her face that she only had me and no more with dad when they know she was sick after me made it seem like I just wasn't enough for them. I also said it was awful to shame a woman who made the safest choice for her family. My dad was furious with his parents and asked what in the world was going on. They then slipped up and basically confessed that they'd been saying awful stuff to mom ever since I was a baby, and they were saying this always behind everybody's back so we wouldn't know. They tried to lecture me about calling them out, but dad shut it down and asked me and mom to wait in the car. Well, apparently some of the extended family are against me now for calling out my grandparents in front of others, and my grandparents are saying how disrespectful I am. But my dad raged at anyone who blamed me. But I wonder if maybe I should have handled it more privately. Like maybe I should have told my dad about this instead of calling them out in the way that I did. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. These grandparents absolutely knew what they were doing, and I personally am a big believer that if you want to talk crap about somebody, especially behind their back, then you deserve to be exposed if you get found out. And the things they were saying about the original poster's mom is so unkind it's not even funny. And it is absolutely ironic that they're trying to be like, wow, you're so disrespectful for calling us out. But like, look at the context here. You call them out for saying horrible things about your mom. Like, which one is worse? You embarrassing them in front of the family, and rightfully so at that, or them saying these terrible things about your mom? Like, I don't know about you, but I would much rather be seen as rude than let anybody talk badly about my family, especially my mom. Like, that's just not gonna happen. So no, you are not the jerk, because in my opinion, your grandparents absolutely had it coming. Am I the jerk for removing my groupmate's name from our group exam project, all because she didn't contribute anything throughout the entirety of the semester? Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old male and I'm a senior in university. For one of our courses, we had a group exam, and it was that thing where you basically choose your own group. We needed to be a group of 5, but we were only a group of 3, so this one girl asked if she could be in our group. She had a reputation for not being actively involved, but since we needed to be a group of 5, I reluctantly agreed. Throughout the course, we had group projects to which she contributed absolutely nothing. In fact, during these group projects, she would ask us if she was a part of our group, but still contribute little to nothing. I still added her name to our group, but I became increasingly frustrated as time went on. Then our midterms came along, and it was a group exam where we had to be on site to take it, and much to nobody's surprise, advice, she informed me through our class representative that she wouldn't be going to class. In the middle of the exam, she had the nerve to ask me if she was part of our group, as if we didn't include her the first 4 times. At that point, I just gave up and I excluded her totally. I did not reply to her message because we wanted to focus on the exam, because guess what? This was incredibly time sensitive. Then afterwards, our class representative talked to me and she sent me a screenshot of this girl asking why I'm not replying. Now to this day, I still do not reply to her messages, and now she is pretty upset with me. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're definitely not the jerk, and honestly, I really hope you talk to your professor about this, because this is so annoying. If you've ever done a group project, then you know how unreliable some people are, and this lady completely takes the cake. For starters, she's not even adding to the group, but also she's checked in 4 different times just to try and figure out if she's even in your group. Like at that point, no, you're not in our group. It's so insane that she wants to act that way and then be like, wow, I can't believe you're not replying. And it's like, lady, scroll up. You can probably see the text message of me saying, hey, you're in our group, stupid. And also the fact that she hasn't done anything for your exams or anything with this group project, like that alone is more than enough reason to be like, okay, you're not in our group anymore. Because in my opinion, there is absolutely no reason you should have to carry her along with you, especially if she's not going to contribute anything to your project. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that I'm done being her caregiver? Because right now, this entire situation is becoming ridiculous, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm 16 years old and I have a twin sister. Let's refer to her as Laura. Laura and I have splitting personalities, but for the most part, we used to get along until high school. Since Laura was an outgoing person, she barely studied, if at all, and she was mostly obsessed with TikTok and stuff like that. Now for me, I'm not nearly as outgoing as her. I mean, I still go out with friends, but only during the holidays, and we do activities like basketball and stuff like that. Due to her dismissal academic performance compared to mine, I am always made to tutor her by my mom. My dad knows about this, but he's busy with work all the time, and he's traveling for different meetings, so he isn't really involved in this situation. My mom is also a stay-at-home mom. Now, I don't mind teaching her, except that every time I try to teach her, she always manages to throw a fit or a tantrum, and I get blamed if she does badly in a test, so I just gave up. Next, she managed to fracture herself at a friend's house after she apparently slipped and missed the landing. I don't remember much, it maybe happened about 3 or 4 weeks ago, but as a result, she ended up in a cast, and it should take approximately 2 months for her to recover. They taught her how to use crutches at the hospital, but admittedly, she wasn't the best with it. Our house is 2 stories tall, and there is a staircase to go up to our bedrooms, so now she wants me to carry her all the time. And this really is not an issue for me. I'm 5'11" and she's 5'7", and I'm much heavier than her, but I'm not free all the time, nor does she want to take the effort to use her crutches. For the past 1 to 2 weeks, I relented and had to do whatever she told me, or else she threatened to complain to our mom, who, by the way, is busy in her own social life and gets fed up when we complain to her, except she takes all the blame out on me. The last straw is when she called for me to take her down the stairs to drink water while I was in a call with a friend. I was literally finishing up a group project that was due the next day. Now, I had had enough, and after the call, I went to her room and I told her that I am not her caregiver all the time, and she needs to do stuff for herself. Now, as you can probably guess, she called up mom and I got in trouble again. So am I the jerk here for putting my foot down? What should I do? No, this is crazy. Why on earth are you expected to carry her up and down the stairs? That is a crazy request, and that is absolutely not your responsibility. And the fact that anybody is going along with this speaks volumes to the type of parents you have to deal with. If I was in your shoes, I would explain to my parents and be like, listen, I'm not helping her any longer. Me having to carry her up and down the stairs every single time she wants anything, that is crazy, and I'm absolutely not doing that anymore. And if your parents really don't like that, then they can step up and they can carry her up and down the stairs. And while we're at it, they can also tutor her and make sure she does her schoolwork. Like seriously, none of this is your problem, and the fact that it is your problem all because you're twins and you're siblings, like that in my opinion is crazy, and there is no good excuse for that. So no, you're definitely not the jerk here, because if I was in your shoes, I would be doing the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for not reaching out to my family after they freaked out on me for leaving the family and choosing to live my own life? Because right now, anytime I talk to them, they are constantly either screaming at me, asking to move in, or demanding money out of me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I grew up in a closed, extended family. We were pretty close with my aunts, uncles, and cousins, often living together with one family unit in a single room. We're talking around 15 people in the house. However, we didn't have much contact with non-family members. As kids, we were not allowed to have friends. We were allowed to go to to school, but we had to come right back home when it ended. No hanging out with classmates and no after-school activities. For me personally, being the youngest one, I was usually an afterthought even for my parents. So needless to say, I was suffering from depression. I moved out of the house when I went to college, and it was at that point I started exploring my freedom. However, even then, I was expected to call every single day and come back home every weekend. As time went on, I started to distance myself by skipping phone calls and not going back every single weekend. And eventually, I broke off all contact with my family. Well, a year after graduating, I had a pretty stable life for myself, and I thought that I would at least get back in touch with my parents and my siblings. Well, the first few conversations over the phone were just them yelling at me. And you know what? I just endured it. After months of this though, we were finally able to have some kind of conversation. But every single time, I was the one who called. When I finally visited back home, there was more yelling, and they expected me to move back into the house. Well, I refused their demand, which led to more yelling again. This continued for a few more months without any kind of progress, so I started to distance myself again. And that was over a decade ago. Last year, I started to get phone calls from several family members. However, every single call follows the same routine. First, they try to make me feel guilty about breaking contact and not calling or visiting. And at that point, I just hang up if they start yelling. But then after that, they want something from me. Usually, they just want some money or have some of my cousins move in with me. But my response to that is always a resounding no. So am I the jerk in this situation for moving away and kind of cutting off my family? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. This is such an awful situation. For starters, your family sounds incredibly sketchy, and they sound incredibly controlling. Like, I don't know what their problem is, but they can't expect you, a grown adult, to move back into the house or even take in your cousins who you haven't seen in like a decade. Like, that's really strange behavior, and I don't blame you for pulling back. It's also alarming that not only are they not calling you, but they're also screaming at you when you finally do reach out and like try to make some kind of connection. Like, you're clearly a better person than me, because the second anybody's gonna start talking to me like that, that's the moment I tune out and I'm like, okay, I remember why I don't talk to these people. Like, they seriously expect you to move back into their house with them. Who wants to live in a house full of 15 people who are mad at you for leaving? Like, that kind of behavior is so weird and controlling, like I would not want to deal with that. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Your family is incredibly strange, and you definitely do not deserve any of this treatment. My best friend literally tried to sabotage my marriage by lying to me about my husband cheating on me. And now, after being confronted that she was absolutely lying to us, she is now playing the victim and has blocked everybody in our lives. And at this point, we really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 29-year-old female, and I met my best friend, who we will call Sarah, and her husband when I was 11 years old. I just moved to a new country with my family, and my now sister-in-law introduced me to Sarah. Now that we're adults, we share some friends, but we each have different groups to do different things. So usually, I'm working at the office from 9 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I have a 30-minute break that I usually take to have my second breakfast, and sometimes take a walk to my husband's office 5 minutes away, or down to a cafe near my job. And sometimes I have to work out of my office or go to another city. Every now and then, I mention to Sarah if I have to travel for work during the week in casual conversations. And last week, I had to travel for work on Wednesday, but Tuesday night, there was a red alert about the weather the next day, so my work thing was canceled and I stayed home with my 2-year-old. My husband went out at 6 o'clock in the morning to make sure his business was closed and put up some flood protection, and by 7:30, he was back at home making breakfast. It didn't start raining until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. At 3 o'clock p.m., Sarah sent a message asking if I was at home already because it was flooding where I was traveling, and I just texted back that I was home safe as we literally just didn't go out until Friday. On Saturday, Sarah and I go to the same gym class, and it was right here that she told me that we needed to talk in private. So we went to my car, and that's when she told me something absolutely unbelievable. She said to me, "On Wednesday, I saw your husband with a woman, and they were making out, and your kid was in the car." Now, when she said this, I was frozen for a bit, but then I remembered that I was working from home with my husband and my baby for 2 days. I realized she was lying, but I didn't understand anything. I asked her 3 times if she was sure it was this week's Wednesday, and she confirmed it 3 times. I asked her what time this all happened, and she said 11 o'clock in the morning. I asked her if it was during the red alert, and she also said yes. I then asked her if she was 100% sure, and she then launched into a whole description of my husband making out with a gorgeous Barbie look-alike blonde girl in his car, all in front of our kid near his office during the red alert. So he was apparently putting my son at risk and cheating in front of him. Well, it's then that I told her that my work thing was suspended because of the red alert, and we were both home the entire time it was activated. And she tried to say she got confused with the days, but she confirmed it 3 times. I then told her to leave, and she left running. lying. I went home and did the whole betrayed spouse home search, and there was no hidden phones. I mean, I have all the passwords to every device in this house, and this is not because of a lack of trust, but it's because literally I manage part of his business and he's bad with passwords. I even look for hidden emails, and the only thing he was hiding was some kind of like paranormal podcast that he listens to sometimes. That night, I told my husband what was going on, and he denied ever cheating, and even worse, disrespecting his son in that way. And I believe him 100%. There wasn't a change in his behavior or his routine, and he gave up his phone right away, and I told him I already checked everything in the house, and he told me to check his car then. It was then at that moment we decided to call Sarah together. She picked up the third call and she was crying. I then told her to just tell me why she lied to me. She then swore she wasn't lying, but told me she got confused with Monday. So I told her Monday our son was in daycare and we had breakfast during my break. So what time did my husband take our son out of daycare, go pick up this girl to make out in front of my baby, and then back to daycare for me to pick him up and then have breakfast with me? When I asked this, she cried even more and told me that she didn't know. So then my husband told her to cut this garbage out and that if she had just even a bit of decency, she would tell us why she was lying. Well, she said she was sorry and then hung up and then had the audacity to block us. So I told the friends we had in common with her, and everybody is mad and can't explain what happened to her. She is not picking up the phone but sent a message back saying that she was sick. Some of them asked her why she was lying and she blocked them as well. Someone even called her mom and she was just as shocked. Nobody understands what's going on. I thought maybe it was a crush, but my husband never liked her that much, so he didn't pay attention to her. She isn't even added to his socials because she never liked her when Sarah was his sister's friend, or when she became my friend too. They don't interact unless it is necessary to say that she's got a crush so big, she thought it was worth it to try and break a family. I do know that sometimes she gossips a little too much, or sometimes she talks about things that she shouldn't, because I never thought it would develop into something this big. I had this girl at my side for really hard moments, and I had her back when she needed me. She was one of the first persons I told about my wedding and my pregnancy. I loved this girl since we were little, but now I don't understand what's happening, and I seriously don't know what to do. Oh my god, your friend is a massive piece of garbage. Here you have a friend that you could probably be friends with for literally your entire life. Like, this is literally someone you grew up with, and someone that you've spent so much time getting to know and trusting. So the audacity and fact that she turned around and was like, oh wow, yeah, your husband's cheating on you, and he did it in front of your son, that's really bad. Only for that all to literally be a lie? Like, that is so crazy. Like, what was she thinking? Was she just trying to stir up drama? Or was she really trying to break up your family and take your husband? Like, there is literally no excuse for this. Like, this really is out of left field. She straight up tried to ruin your life, and now that she's been caught, she is like, oh man, I'm just gonna block everybody. That is not a good friend, and that is an awful person. So truly, I'm so glad that you at least found out about this, because clearly Sarah had ulterior motives. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My partner's parents have become incredibly intrusive, as they've been questioning me about my salary and my student loan details. So now I'm trying to figure out how to set some kind of boundaries with these people, because this is incredibly annoying and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been with my partner for 7 years, and his parents have been asking me incredibly personal questions, which is driving me insane. For example, I recently received an offer from my dream workplace, and over dinner, they outright asked me what the salary is and seemed upset that it isn't quite as much as what I'd be earning in the private sector. From there, they started questioning me about my student loans in some kind of effort to get me to tell them the precise amount that I have. For context, neither they nor their children have any student loans, and this is at least in part because they come from a much wealthier background than my family, but it's also due to the fact that both of my partner's parents completed all their education overseas where it's completely free. By contrast, I've completed all of my education in the United States, including graduate school, and I come from a working class family. I've worked incredibly hard to get where I'm at, and I don't think they have half a clue as to what that was like. When my partner's parents ask these questions, he is always silent and refuses to set boundaries. Unfortunately, they never seem to ask these invasive questions of their own children, but instead they only do this to me. So how should I go about setting proper boundaries with them? What should I do? Okay, honestly, the fact that your partner's not stepping up and being like, hey, shut up and stop asking that question, in my opinion, is super weird. Like, seriously, why not just tell his parents to put a lid on it and stop asking these weird questions? Like, if that was me, that's the first thing I would do. Isn't that obvious? Like, seriously, what's going on here? And in my opinion, I don't think this should come from you at all. Like, this really should be your boyfriend stepping up and being like, hey, stop asking these questions questions. Or even in the future just be like, no, I'm not going to talk about that, that's private, or something like that. Like this for me would be the first and last time they ever find out any information about me, because the way they're acting, in my opinion, is incredibly intrusive, and you do not deserve to deal with that in the slightest. An entitled customer demands that they speak to my supervisor after they got triggered over something innocent that I said. Here's what happened. Okay, so here's a story where a customer literally got triggered by one word. I used to handle customer service for Amazon some time ago, and I got this one phone call where a customer was asking to return something that she ordered. And it's like, okay, sure enough. Let's go ahead and create a return label for her and return the goods. I explained the whole drill for the return, and at one point, she asked what was the amount of the refund because she was within the 90-day return window and was expecting the full amount. Well, when I explained the amount, this is where things went really wrong. I said to her, okay, this is the amount you get as soon as we get the goods back. It will be about $64. When I said this, there was absolute silence. She then said to me, did you say bucks? Are you serious? Did you just say bucks? This is unacceptable. Get me a supervisor right now. As I was reaching out to my supervisor within my office, I was kind of blown away by how a customer could snap at just one word choice. In the end, my supervisor eventually took over and resolved the customer's issue while I took another call because we were super busy. The next day, I was sitting alone during my lunchtime and the supervisor sat next to me. We talked casually about the customer who demanded a supervisor just for one word, and according to him, the customer said to him, tell your management that the agent who took my call is an incompetent jerk who doesn't know how to talk. Now, I just sighed with a face that looked like I don't get paid enough to deal with this kind of crap, and my supervisor read right through my face and said, no worries. Quality control also checked the call, and certainly there was nothing wrong with it. Let's just avoid using that word from now on. Well, fast forward a few weeks later, and I got another call from the same customer. She called because her account was locked on suspected fraud, and I was like, okay, let's see what we can do here. But as soon as the customer heard my voice, she snapped again and demanded to reach out to my supervisor. She said to me, I remember you. You're that weirdo who talks like an idiot teenager. Get me your supervisor. And before she could even go any further, I decided to hang up the phone. At this rate, I had enough of customers taking it out on agents who simply did their best assisting them. Quality control once again got this call to audit, but I was set free to return to work, as it was one of the few instances where hanging up on the customer was completely valid. She went obnoxious for no reason, or in this case, just a matter of wording. Nothing ever came out of the quality control audits of these two calls, and the customer actually remained banned. And I heard this from the last few days I had running customer service all before I quit, because trust me, this job in some ways definitely was not worth it. Wow, it's really weird to get this angry over something so small. Like seriously, all he said was, okay, it's gonna be about $64. And sure, he could have said, oh yeah, it's $64. Like those words basically mean the same thing. Like, is she being serious right now? So yeah, I don't blame you for quitting that job, because dealing with customers like that had to have been exhausting. Am I the jerk for changing the locks on my apartment after my brother came in unannounced and stole my Roomba? Because even though he's moving out and getting all his belongings, that Roomba did not belong to him. And at this point, I'm incredibly frustrated and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my brother, who we will call Chris, moved in with my boyfriend and I 7 years ago. We took pity on him after he was kicked out of my childhood home for substance use, not to mention he was also sleeping in his car. At first, Chris and my boyfriend got along great, but after a few years of living together, Chris became more reclusive and distant from both of us. Chores were not being done around the house, and I was getting sick of cleaning up after him, not to mention his negative attitude. 6 months prior to the end of our lease, I told Chris that he had to find another living situation. He did finally move out a few weeks prior to the end of our lease, and I thought we all agreed about splitting up shared appliances and valuables. But one thing we did not discuss was our shared robot mopping device. We acquired this one day at my grandma's house a few years ago. She was moving and offered it to all three of us as she would not be using it. So we brought that little robot home. Now this thing is nothing fancy. It's just a small device that you fill with some cleaning solution and attach disposable mop pads. And let me be clear, in the 4 years we have had this thing, Chris has not once paid for any replacement mopping pads, and he had never even turned the thing on. It was always my boyfriend or I splitting the cost of the pads and setting this thing up to run nightly, so we would all wake up to clean floors downstairs. Now Chris hasn't returned his key because he's slowly still moving things out, but it's been over a month now. He always showed up unannounced to our home to gather boxes and his belongings, and sometimes we wouldn't even realize he was there while we had been out. Last night, my boyfriend was looking for our little robot friend as we had just gotten new pads delivered for it. But it turns out, after going crazy looking for this thing, as well as texting Chris to see if he took it, he messaged us back and said, yeah, I took it, it's mine. And this for me was the last straw. We had been so accommodating to this man for years. I just can't believe Chris had the audacity to take our beloved robot cleaning friend without a word. I have let Chris know that we are no longer comfortable with him coming by unannounced, and if he needs anything, we will look for it ourselves. I also said he can return his key to the office and we will pick it up. Well, he responds in a way that I honestly didn't expect. He says to us, "Stop being weird. I don't want any of your trash. I already had all my useful grow equipment stolen anyways. Stop texting me before you make me mad." Now, the grow stuff referred to is an indoor greenhouse and hydroponics, which, by the way, was verbally agreed for an even split of materials, since both Chris and my boyfriend acquired the equipment together. My boyfriend then ordered cameras that will be here tomorrow, and I've contacted the leasing office to make them aware of the animosity between us, while also requesting that the locks need to be changed. So I really want to know, did I take this too far? This robot is not at all expensive, but it's more about the principle to me. I feel really disrespected. We all have to see each other next week for Thanksgiving, and I just know that it will be awkward. What should I do? No, in my opinion, I don't think you've done anything wrong, and I don't think you're the jerk. Chris crossed a serious line here. Sure, he had a key to the house to get his stuff out of the house, but he took something that didn't belong to him. Like, that for me, in my opinion, is all that matters in this story. He stole something that explicitly was not his, even though he's claiming, "Oh yeah, that's mine, I'm taking it." It's like, okay, if he's willing to take that, then what else is he willing to take? So in my opinion, I think you're completely within your rights to be like, yeah, we're changing the locks and you're not welcome here anymore. And also, this guy is super lazy. It's been a month and he still doesn't have all of his garbage out of your house. Like, come on, that would have taken like at least a week at the most. There's no way this should have been stretched out this long. Like, if he really wants his stuff so badly, then maybe the curb will be a good home for his belongings since he can't respect yours. But either way, you're definitely not the jerk, because Chris, in my opinion, is completely out of line. My girlfriend has been spending way too much time with another guy, even going as far as spending the night with him after they went to a concert together. And now, after dealing with this for so long, I seriously feel so lost and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my girlfriend and I have been together for over a year and a half now. We are doing long distance and only see each other about 3 times a year, and this is usually with a month and a half visit. This girl has been my world and has significantly influenced my outlook on life. I never knew that I could love a person this much, so I guess this is why I am so conflicted. And although we have our ups and downs, our relationship is generally really great, and I've had the best moments of my life spent with her. But unfortunately, in the span of just a month and a half, there have been quite a few issues that have happened. The first issue is that she has this guy best friend who flew to where she lives to attend a love song concert with her. They also live in the same country. He then proceeded to rent an expensive sports car to bring my girlfriend out for a fancy lunch and dinner, and then after that they went to the love song concert, and then she brings this guy home for a sleepover. She told me about it a week before the event, saying, "Hey, I'm going to a concert with him and he's crashing at my place." And as a side note, she only told me that she was going to do it and never bothered to ask if I'd be okay with it. At this point, I'm super uncomfortable, especially with the lack of respect from the both of them. Like, do I even exist? Neither of them thought that I, her boyfriend, might not be okay with their special day and their sleepover. So yeah, I was clearly uncomfortable with it and she could tell, but I did not want to get in between their friendship, so I just held it in. Since then, I have tried talking to her about how troubled I was by it, and every time I did, she flipped things on me, like saying that I don't make enough money and I don't update her often when I'm at the gym. And every time I end up apologizing and promising to do better for her. She only addresses my concerns with stuff like, "Oh, he's just a friend. I've known him for ages. I did not cheat on you. I can't change the past." She never showed genuine empathy for the pain she caused me, never saying things like, "Oh, I'm so sorry and I'll never do it again." And her apologies always had an annoyed tone to them. She also had tears in her eyes and side-eyed me saying, "I already told you that I'm sorry." She also posted a story with a guy best friend publicly, and I caught a glimpse of her phone and they took selfies together. In contrast, while she's visiting my country right now, she has never taken a single selfie with us together, nor posted a story with me in it. I confronted her about this and her response was to say, "Him and I just don't see each other often." And I was thinking, what are you talking about? What about us? We are literally doing long distance dating. She also tends to compare my capabilities to the guy best friends, and she actually puts me down and puts him on a pedestal, even mentioning how rich this guy is. Another issue is that she regularly complains that I do not provide for her. During her visit going on right now, I spent hours on consecutive days, including my work days, driving her around and helping her move stuff, and she was unappreciative of my efforts and only thanked me when I asked for one. We discussed the provide matter seriously, and I laid everything out I could provide, and she cried saying, "This is not the life I want." She says that just my time and effort is not enough, so she's basically saying I need to spend more money on her, I guess. After all this, I broke down crying like I've never done before, sobbing like crazy and I was teary-eyed for days. I thought to myself that she was not the same person I love so dearly. I felt that I have once again let myself down, and after a few days of not talking, I made up my mind to end things. I expressed that I don't feel appreciated, and the lack of respect from her and her guy best friend are a deal breaker for me. Well, she saw the extent of it and finally became more apologetic this time. She convinced me to give the relationship another go, and I reluctantly agreed, which then leads to my third issue. We traveled to Korea, and I was using her phone to take a photo of her, and a message came in from the guy best friend, and that's when I saw that he called my girlfriend Babe. I confronted her about it and asked if she calls him Babe too, and she told me that she does and tells me that it doesn't mean anything. Well, this got me incredibly uncomfortable, especially after the breakup attempt that just happened. She clearly knows the extent of all of it and still receives Babe messages from him, but once again, I just held it in because we were on holiday. So here I am now. Our relationship has rekindled after the Korea trip, but I am still constantly thinking about the deal breakers and her behavior towards it all, and I honestly just don't think I can look past them. In the past, I've always promised that I'd do better for our future, but after what happened with the guy best friend, I don't feel like I want to work harder for her in particular anymore. So honestly, I feel so lost and I really don't know what to do. Okay, for me personally, this is so sketchy from your girlfriend. She basically went on a date with her best friend and had a sleepover with him, and she's also calling him Babe over messaging. Like, that sounds really weird. And I don't know about you, but using the word babe is kind of almost exclusively used for, like, I don't know, someone in a relationship. So for that to be used on a supposed friend outside of the relationship, like, that is a massive red flag, and that is not something I would ever ignore. But with all things considered, I don't blame you for being frustrated. It really seems like she wants a lot out of you, but doesn't really give anything else in return. So hopefully it all works out for you, because this kind of treatment is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend's aunt that I could call the cops on her after she stole my Coachella ticket? Because right now, I seriously feel I've ruined the family dynamics we used to have, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I've been with my boyfriend for 6 years, and I've known his aunt throughout those years. We were actually pretty close, but she now lives with his parents because she cheated on her husband, and the new boyfriend now lives there as well. So we moved to an apartment, but still get our items shipped to our parents since our place is kinda sketchy. And I had bought Coachella tickets and I sent them to his house. Well, 2 weeks before Coachella, the person I was going to Coachella with got COVID, and so we decided to sell our tickets. The only problem is that my ticket never came in. We kept asking everyone who lived in the house for weeks if they had seen the package, to which they all said no. We searched the living room and the kitchen, but nothing came up. Now, a month prior to this, his aunt told his mom that she was selling Coachella tickets that her boyfriend had gotten from his niece, and it never crossed my mind that this ticket was mine. I was starting to get stressed because the ticket was $600, and I was about to have to drive to the venue to pick up my ticket and go to the concert alone. The day before Coachella, my boyfriend's aunt confesses to her crime. Her boyfriend had stolen my ticket and had been trying to sell it off. His aunt tried to say that she had no idea it was my ticket because according to her, the package had no name on it, which is a complete lie. Once I hear about it, I immediately start shaking and sobbing, feeling betrayed and that we stressed out over nothing. Since they probably already sold the ticket, I couldn't even go to Coachella. My boyfriend then called his mom to tell her how messed up this is, and his parents completely agreed. Now, she never apologizes, but instead just kept up her lies and excuses. I was so fed up that I eventually said, you know it's illegal to steal other people's mail, and I could go to the police about this if I wanted to. Well, when I said this upset his aunt, and I felt bad about this. My boyfriend then said the right thing to do is for my aunt to send us the $600. Now, we haven't talked about this incident ever since then with them, but I know they talk garbage about me to their entire family because that is exactly what they do. In fact, when I go to his family parties, I just stay quiet and I act friendly. I'm an extremely sensitive person, and the thing that hurt the most about this situation is that someone close to me could lie and betray me like that after seeing firsthand how stressed me and her nephew were. I feel like the jerk in this situation because I've created a rift between him and his ex-favorite aunt. I still feel so guilty. So truly, did I overreact and mess up his relationship with his family? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk, and I definitely don't think you messed up. She stole your tickets, like there's no other way around it. And it doesn't sound like she's sorry for what she did, because instead of apologizing for it, she's trying to justify it. And that is so toxic. It honestly is so awful. So no, you're not the jerk for saying you could go to the police, because in all actuality, you absolutely could if you wanted to. My psycho friend is demanding that I give back a couch and a TV that she gave to me over a year ago, claiming that if I don't give it back, she'll call the police on me and have me arrested. But despite the fact that this was literally literally a gift that she gave to me, I feel like my life and my friend group is falling apart, as this lady is trying to ruin my life by spreading a rumor that I stole from her. And right now, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Last year, I moved into a new apartment and it was unfinished. I went to my friend's house right after receiving my keys to celebrate, and during our conversation, she mentions her extra couch and TV in her garage, and she stated that she would like me to have it. Now, I insisted that I don't take it, and that it was way too much. However, she insisted right back that I take it, and after a few minutes of back and forth, I finally agreed, which, trust me, in hindsight, I really wish that I didn't. The next day comes around, and the moving guy helps load the couch and the TV into his van, and we drive back to my new place and we unload it there, and I thank my friend for giving me this furniture. Well, fast forward, and a few months later, me and this friend got into an altercation, and our friendship ended right there. A few more months passed by, and 2 days ago, she sends a mutual friend between us to speak on her behalf. Her message consisted of her telling me that the moving truck will be there in a few hours, and that I have to give her back the couch and the TV, or else I'm gonna have to pay her for it. And also, as a side note, I've had the furniture for over a year at this point. Well, when I was told this, I told her no, I will not be giving her the furniture or paying her back, because this literally was a gift, and I'm not obligated to return it to her now that she's angry at me from our previous altercation before summer started. And by the way, the altercation itself that happened was because I genuinely needed to cut her off for my own safety. I had many reasons, as well as her being disrespectful towards me and the people that I love. Her reaction after I told her that I wouldn't be giving her the furniture back was to say that she was gonna call the police on me, which is like, okay, but I'm not sure what they're gonna do about that, because honestly, they're probably gonna do nothing. What bothers me now is that she's sending so many people to talk to me on her behalf, to the point where I've been getting calls from no caller ID numbers, and they're accusing me of stealing the furniture. I mean, I'm not sure how I would carry a couch and a TV on my back and go unnoticed, but oh well. What worries me is that our friends that we have in common probably heard from her that I stole her stuff, and I don't really want to go up to each of them and explain myself. I really dislike how the people she sent are urging me to return her stuff so that she can stop bothering me. But here's the dilemma. This person disrespected me, started rumors about me, and is now threatening me. So wouldn't I be weak or submitting by returning a gift that she gave to me over a year ago? But also, if I didn't, I don't know to what more lengths she's willing to go. Personally, I don't view the furniture as hers because I've had it for over a year. And if she had asked me for money back then, I would have given it to her. I think it's unfair that she's demanding I return the stuff or pay her a year later. On the other hand, I do feel guilty. So am I the jerk in this situation for not wanting to give this stuff back? What should I do? No, you're definitely not the jerk at all. This is insane. Your friend is only wanting that stuff back because she is pissed off at you. She is literally doing all of this out of spite because you guys got into an argument. And from the sounds of it, this doesn't sound like a safe person at all. And you've had this stuff for well over a year. Like seriously, if I own something for over like even 3 months, congratulations, it's mine and you're not getting it back. Especially if it was given to me fair and square. Like your former friend's behavior is absolutely insane. And the fact that she's trying to spin this weird narrative and basically accuse you of stealing from her, like that is so toxic and it honestly just really sucks. And you know what? If other people believe that garbage and they're really gonna sit there and be like, wow, you stole that from her house, then trust me, those are not friends worth keeping. Because you've got it right. You didn't break into her house and take it away from her. She quite literally gave it to you as a gift over a year ago. So for her to want this back in some kind of way, in my opinion, is absolutely insane. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not lending my brother any money after he told me that he could lose his condo if he doesn't pay a fee right away? Because right now he's calling me selfish and saying that I'm the jerk. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so me, my brother, and my sister all inherited money when our father passed away in 2022. Ever since then, my sister has spent all her money. My brother and his wife bought a condo in Florida, which used up all their savings, and I have about $40,000 in my savings. Recently, my brother's building has had unexpected HOA fees pop up that are literally out of their budget, as well as a roof that cost about $6,000 a few months ago, and now it's a $4,500 fee regarding upkeep of the shared parking lot. Typically, I would never disclose my finances even with family, but since he is aware of what we all inherited, he's always been a bit obsessed about asking how much I have left, as well as what my plans are, essentially meaning that he's keeping tabs on us. Now, my partner and I are currently 6 months pregnant, and we're doing pretty well for ourselves, but we do live in Manhattan, and it's insanely expensive, to the point where I'm kinda needing to pull from my savings more often than I'd like to, and now that we're expecting a child, I feel hyper protective of what nest egg we do have in case of emergencies, medical costs, etc. Well, last week he called me a bit intoxicated and said that he really needs help with the $4,500 that is now due at the end of the month. He said his wife has some checks coming in and he will pay me back as soon as they get the money. Now, I wasn't super comfortable with the conversation and I did my best to avoid it, basically saying something along the lines of, well, why don't we wait and see if the money comes through, and if not, then we can talk about it. Well, yesterday he texted me and said, it doesn't look like we're going to get the checks by the end of the month, and it would be incredible if we could borrow the money from you. Super annoying, I know, but we're so sorry. I responded by saying, I'm really sorry you're dealing with this fee, but I just don't have that kind of money right now. With the holidays coming up and medical bills for the baby, I'm tapped financially. I budgeted out the month, and I can send you like $150 if you need money for groceries, but that's all I can spare right now. Now, for even a bit more context, my brother and sister are both unreliable people. My sister, who I realize is not super relevant to this story, handles her finances very poorly and will ask to borrow money from me every 6 months or so, with my brother asking before but not nearly as often. My sister has never paid me back, and my brother has managed to get things together in the past to where I don't recall ever lending him much, maybe a couple hundred here and there, but never got anything back. But I say this because he knows he can't ask my sister for help, and our parents have both passed away, which basically leaves only me, his little sister. He is now saying that they could lose their condo and that I'm being a jerk for not lending him the money when they are clearly struggling. I'm doing my best to keep things afloat for my partner and I really don't want to pull from my savings, especially not knowing if I will even get this money back. So am I the jerk for not wanting to lend them money? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk here. If I knew for a fact my siblings would probably not pay me back a couple $1,000s, then there is no way on planet Earth I would lend that money to them. Like seriously, that's a recipe for disaster. And sure, they're gonna lose their condo, but guess what? That's not your fault. You didn't put them in that situation. This literally is not your fault. So for them to be like, wow, we're gonna lose it. You're being so selfish right now. I can't believe you. It's like, what are you talking about? I didn't cause this. You're insane for thinking that. Like they're the ones that bought the condo in the first place, not you. And if they can't afford it, well then congratulations, that's their problem. And I don't say that to be like heartless or mean to a family member, but seriously, this really could have been avoided if they just live within their means. Like they literally spent all their savings just to buy the condo in the first place. And I don't know about you, but that does not sound like a smart decision. So no, you would not be the jerk if you chose not to lend any money to your brother, because from the sounds of it, it really seems like you will not get any of that back. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that I will buy my own dress after she called me fat? Because right now, they're all saying that I'm overreacting, but right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 19-year-old female, and I'm going to a wedding for some of my friends of my boyfriend, and my mom offered to help me get ready. For context, my mom is gorgeous. She used to model, and she has always been incredibly beautiful, and she has an awesome body. My two older brothers take after her, and they're both handsome men. Now, I'm the only daughter, and as such, I think she expected someone like her, but I am not like her. I was very thin when I was a kid, but I was a tomboy and hated everything feminine. Then puberty hit, and I gained a lot of weight. I'm not obese, but I am your average chubby person. I'm 75 kilograms at about 165 centimeters, so I'm overweight, but not overly so, I guess. Also, I don't look a lot after myself in the sense that I don't really go out of my way to do skincare or any kind of makeup, but I do love my mom, and she does truly love me, but she isn't a kind person. All through my teenage years, she made a lot of harsh comments about my appearance and my weight. I'm a sensitive person, so this used to affect me a lot. I can usually take criticism fairly enough if it's phrased nicely, but I can't take it if there's even a hint of mockery or meanness in it. Anyways, it's not that big of a deal now. Years back, I was honest with my mom that her comments really affected my self-esteem, and she seemed to tone it down. Occasionally, she will still do it, but not that often. She just can't help herself, I think. It's her way of showing love, but it makes me hate myself. When I'm next to her, she will scan my face for pimples, and if she finds one, she will actively ignore me to pop them. Or I will be doing something alone, and she will come over to comment that my hair looks bad, and I need to use this different product. Or sometimes I'll be walking, and she will comment that my belly is large, and that I need to go to the gym. Things like that. I know they're not bad, but I just can't take it. Which then leads me to the situation at hand. She was giving me dresses to use to the wedding, and we have always shared dresses, so this isn't news. One of the dresses that she lent me was one that she used 2 years ago at my graduation, and when I put it on, it was pretty tight. Her and my aunt tried to force it closed, but it was still struggling. Now, I said that they should stop, but they continued to force it, and the zipper basically broke down completely. When it happened, my mom blurted out, "Wow, you really are fat." And my aunt bursted out laughing and started teasing me about being chubby, and I just kept silent. We tried on a few more dresses, and I chose a pretty one that fits well and was elastic, and that was that. Then afterwards, my mom asked me if I really had been going to the gym and said that I would have to suck in my belly during the wedding just so it didn't show so much in the dress that I had picked. At that point, I got fed up, and I told her that I was sick of her comments and I would buy my own dress to go. Now, my mom thinks that I blew up at her for nothing and that I'm about to spend money over a tantrum. Meanwhile, my siblings think that I'm being dramatic and that I'm just mad that I'm fat. But my friends and my boyfriend think that I'm right. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk here. Your mom, your aunt, and all of your siblings suck. Like, they literally just suck overall. She's making fun of you because of your weight. Like, obviously there's some kind of conversation going on behind your back, and the fact that you're not in on it is really just disturbing. Like, why else would your aunt laugh out of nowhere after your mom was like, wow, you really are fat? Almost confirming like a conversation they had in private about you. Like, that's crazy and so incredibly mean. And it's so awful that your siblings are like, wow, you're being dramatic. You're just mad because you're fat. And it's like, wow, thank you so much for revealing your hand. You're also pointing out the fact that I'm overweight. Which, I mean, come on, let's be honest for a second. Absolutely anyone on the earth who's not a model would easily be seen as chubby or fat if they were standing next to a model and trying on some of their dresses. Like, I don't care if she used to be a model. She clearly keeps up with her appearances, so it's like, okay, we just have different body types. Like, if I was in your shoes and my mom made that comment towards me, I would be like, okay, well, I'm just not gonna deal with you. Why should I have to deal with your stupid comments? Like, that is unbelievably toxic and you don't deserve that. So no, you're not the jerk in this scenario because the way your family's acting, in my opinion, is unacceptable. My toxic managers forced me to drive a delivery truck that definitely is out of order, as this truck quite literally was not fit to be on the road, despite the fact that I voiced my concerns many times. So after dealing with this for so long, I decided to maliciously comply by driving this vehicle anyways and getting this company in so much trouble that they had to pay $65,000 in fines. Here's what happened. Okay, so back in the day, I was a truck driver. The company had a few trucks that were made for different jobs, and depending on the job you had to deliver, determined the truck you drove. So it was not too uncommon to drive 3 different trucks in one day. Now, the company was awful on maintenance of the vehicles. Over the years with them, I received a few fines for things like no inspection and stuff like that, and even though I received the fine, the company would pay for the fine. So basically, no harm, no foul. Finally, our big truck really started to go downhill, and it got to the point where it was barely running and needed a ton of repairs costing thousands of dollars to fix it. I told the company that I refused to drive the truck as it was an accident waiting to happen. Well, this lasted a week, and then they said I needed to drive the truck for one delivery, and unfortunately, I agreed out of a need to be a team player and service my customer. Well, as expected, the drive was horrible. It was leaving a trail of smoke 10 feet high as I drove the highway. I knew I was in trouble when they loaded a case of motor oil in the cab for me to fill the engine if needed. On the way there, the cars behind me were turning on their high beams just to see, literally all because of the smoke trail I was leaving. Then, as the sun finally came up, people were pulling up next to me on the highway, they were honking their horns, and they were flipping me the bird. I found out so much liquid oil was coming out of the exhaust that oil was landing on the vehicles behind me. It was only a 50-mile round trip, and the truck lost 24 quarts of oil and almost a tank of fuel. So I again told them that I would not drive the truck until it's fixed. As a truck driver, you are required to do a pre-trip inspection of the vehicle prior to driving every single day. You mark down defects, and there is room for notes in the logbook. One copy stays in the truck, and one copy goes to the company, with a third copy going to the DOT if requested. So I made sure to fill this out every time I drove this truck. I also made a separate list, mostly as a note for myself, covering things that I thought were important, but not necessarily a part of the pre-trip inspection. The next day I came in and I found the truck fully loaded. I told them I was not driving that truck, but they said, well, you have to do it. So after a quick thought, I said okay, but this is where my malicious compliance begins. I pulled out of the lot, and at the traffic light, I would make a left to head to the job. However, I was out of fuel, so I had to turn right to get to the gas station to fuel up, and then backtrack just to head to the job. And yes, I'm talking about getting gas. It was a 33,000-pound truck with a gas engine. Well, the DOT was set up on the other side of the road just before the gas station, and they watched as I drove by, wishing they could get me. Now, in case you don't know, DOT stands for Department of Transportation. For big trucks, they run the weigh stations on the highway, but in heavy truck areas, they set up mobile stations and inspect trucks randomly. They verify that paperwork is in order and that the vehicle and driver are safe. And trust me, any fines here are incredibly expensive. Plus, they can put a truck out of service, meaning that it cannot be driven until it's repaired, which at that point means the truck needs to be towed and fixed. So anyways, I pull into the fuel station, and as I'm filling up, I can feel them watching me. So I leave the fuel station and I head back towards the DOT, and that's when they run out into the street to make me pull in, basically signaling that they wanted this truck. So I pull in and I shut down the truck, and the DOT cop walks up to the truck with a creeper. I say to him, "Why do you need that?" He says, "What?" I say to him, "The creeper, why do you need that?" He says to me, "I gotta check your truck." I say to him, "No, I've got a list." I then hand him the notes and the logbook. He takes a look at it, and then he goes back to his truck, and I can see him furiously writing. After about 30 minutes, he comes back and he says to me, "Why are you driving this truck?" But I responded by saying they told me to do it. He then asked me, "Well, is there no other truck?" And I reply back and I say, "No, there's nothing." He asked me what would happen if I don't drive this truck, and I say to him, "Well, I guess I get sent home if I don't." He then says he'll be right back, and after about 20 minutes, he comes back to me, and it's right then that he slaps a big out of service tag on the windshield. He then tells me something that blew my mind. He says to me, "There are 21 issues that are putting the truck out of service. Plus, I'm giving the company a fine for letting you drive this truck. Unfortunately, your fuel sticker is expired. If I write you up for this, it'll be a $10,000 fine to you. But I called the local cops, and it'll be a $90 fine for you that the company should pay." After he said that, I thanked him, and then he leaves. Well, I call the company, and I get it right back to the warehouse. The bottom line is that they paid all the fines, which was north of $65,000, including towing. And funny enough, the next week, we had a fleet of new leased trucks with a maintenance plan with replacement trucks if ours were down for any issues. And they even came out and washed the trucks twice a month. I then worked there for another 2 years and quit because of other truck issues. The competitor poached me with better money, but this just goes to show I am not risking my life and the public's life for your job. In the end, you paid a $65,000 lesson. And when I say I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it unless it's safe. Yeah, this is a fantastic example of what happens when a company cuts corners. They literally force you to drive an unsafe vehicle. I can't believe that they forced that on you. But I love the fact that you took notes and made sure to keep a log of everything that these people did, because the way they treated you, in my opinion, is completely unfair. My girlfriend's male best friend is actively trying to sabotage our relationship. And after talking to my girlfriend about this, she doesn't see things the way that I do. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, it's pretty clear that my girlfriend's best friend has been trying to tear us apart. She said to him that she wants to maintain some boundaries with him, and she's been seeing him a lot less now. She still reassures me that the two of them are just friends, but nothing more, and that she is committed to me, but this guy obviously still likes her. She's kept some distance from him, but she still wants to be his friend. They are still going to New York and Boston together, which I'm starting to become a little uncomfortable with. She still wants to go with him, but they're going to rearrange their plans a little. I trust my girlfriend completely, but I don't know if I trust this guy. I feel that he's trying to spend quality time with her in hopes that he can win her over or something like that, even though I know that she loves me and I love her too. She says that no matter what happens, I will be her number one, and that she will never do anything with him. She spends a lot more time with me than she does with him now, but keep in mind that when they do hang out, it's only the two of them without me, which I am still able to respect. And I know that she won't do anything with him, but he keeps doing fun stuff with her. She has stopped going to his workplace so often, but they do plan to go kayaking sometime during the winter break, and they're going to go bowling this weekend before heading over to New York. Now, when it comes to me and her best friend, we're both going to have lots of time to see her over the winter break, but he lives closer to her than I do. They keep planning fun things to do together, and I don't think that her best friend will be able to move on from her. He's also told her that she's cute before, and it really bothers me, but it doesn't bother her. She said that she's okay if he compliments her once or twice. So honestly, at this point, I feel incredibly frustrated, and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, my God, this is so crazy to me. For starters, I do think that your relationship is slowly being sabotaged, but I don't think it's because of this male best friend. If your relationship falls apart with your girlfriend, it is literally only going to be because of your girlfriend. This guy clearly still has like some kind of feelings towards your girlfriend. Like, it seriously could not be more obvious. Also, the original poster mentioned that this guy tried to like confess his love for her, but she rejected him. So it now begs the question, okay, well, why is she keeping this guy around? It's like she acknowledges that she has a relationship with you, but she's also keeping this guy around for some reason and spending all this time together in New York and Boston. And she's like, oh, it's fine if he calls me cute like once or twice. That's okay. That's just a compliment. It's like, no, lady, this is not just a compliment. This guy has more on his mind than just being friends. And it really seems like he's trying desperately to work his way into the middle of your relationship. And you've even expressed this. You've said, hey, I don't like this guy being around because he really is like putting a wedge between us. Because Because in my opinion, it seems like she's only keeping him around because she likes the attention. Like, that's the only reason I can think of in this scenario. She likes that another guy is doting all over her and loves to take her kayaking and bowling and all this other stuff, while also keeping you on the side as the actual boyfriend. Like, she's really out here trying to have two boyfriends and is sitting there like, oh wow, what's going on? I don't understand. He's just a friend, it's not a big deal. So yes, if I was in your shoes, I would also be incredibly frustrated. I would not know what's going on, and I would seriously be questioning my girlfriend's motives. So honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would really make my girlfriend choose between me or this other guy, because she clearly wants it both ways, and that is absolutely not fair for you in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.